All right. Hey there, everyone. I'm trying to make sure that my thing pops up because sometimes it does, sometimes it
Sometimes
doesn't.
it
If you
doesn't.
guys, and I'll be sitting there talking to myself. I'm glad I got company this time around.
Just be the
Normally
two
I'm
of
here
us
by
chatting for
myself.
3 hours.
Right, right. Doing a whole monologue. They get halfway through. Where you at, James? If you guys can see me and hear us, give me a one in the chat so that way I know that you guys are up on board. Hello, hello. Daddy Towns in the house.
Hi, Danny.
Sherry, hopefully, I think I saw Kathy was in the house earlier. Kathy Ferran. Hopefully, you're feeling better. I noticed that you had a little issue with your ankle. I know that that was giving you some trouble. So hopefully that you're on the mend with that. I think she said that she was having some nerve issues with it. Okay, I see some ones
Yes.
popping up.
We missed you,
But I
Kathy,
hope
on Thursday
everything is
night.
well. Yeah, yeah. She said she passed out. She said broke her foot. Yeah. She said she was going through it. I tell you, them
That's rough.
Clevelands must have tripped you, Kathy. Don't let them do it to you, girl. Don't let them can't keep a good woman down. That's what we're gonna say. We're gonna fight back. but
That's right.
let me drop the intro, and then we're gonna get started tonight, guys. We're very excited. We're gonna be talking about sorority from Becoming Sister Wives, the book review in full effect. It gets like a weird glare. Apologize for that. Changes gets funky. But we're going to be talking about sorority. And in this particular segment, we're going to be talking about sorority or sisterhood from Mary's perspective, which is always interesting because she's the one with Cody who helped formulate the family and became the foundation for what the Brown family is today, which is, three single women's and a baby daddy. So we will be going through that. But before we do anything else, let's rip this intro and then we are off to the races.
Yo, is My Take on Reality covering Sister Wives again?
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
You could be with anyone, I could be with anyone. You're you and me. You're you and me. You could be around for
You could be with anyone, I could be with anyone. You're you and me. You're you and
Let's get it.
All right, all right, all right. Big shout out. Before we get started, I also want to make sure I give a big shout out to the mods. On mine, I got Lizzie B, got Rochelle J, got J Baby. Do you have any mods that you want to shoot out, Jenny?
Let me look at my pop-up. Lynn Skinner is here moderating. Thank you,
Okay.
Lynn. Let's see. Right now, it looks like Lynn. Oh, and Lori Currad is here as well. Thank you, Lori.
Okay.
Appreciate you both.
Lori's in the house. All right, cool beans. Just want to make sure we get that in because sometimes I try to get it at the end and then I'll get cut off. I'll
Yeah.
cut myself off, which is ironic. All right, go see how bye. And then next thing you know. So I want to make sure I get it in early. Yeah, thanks everybody who sent in the super chats last week. That was awesome. Appreciate you guys. But we're here to talk about sister wives and the foolishness that they have going on. And Jenny and I were talking before we jumped on, and it's amazing to me, and I believe Jenny was in concert with this idea that it's incredible how different the book is from the show. Now, I'm familiar with reading a book and then going to watch the movie, and then, wow, that was completely different. But when you're on a reality show versus you sit down and write your own book, and then you want to complain later that nobody understands what's going on. It's kind of weird to me. I'm just going to go ahead and call it. I think it's very weird that I've seen situations where people will take positions that I believe they get from the book, and they'll apply that information to the show, or people doing watchbacks on the show, and somebody, either Cody or one of the wives, will come out and say they got that completely wrong, but this is information that they provided in the book.
Yeah.
Is that a fair assessment, Jenny, or you think it's not
absolutely fair? Yeah. Like I was saying before, I wish I had read this book 14 years ago or 13 years ago, whenever it first came out, because I'm just reading it for the first time now. And I'm like, what I was saying, like, I was like starting to highlight and write notes on like every single line, even though it's like me reading through it again, but it just kind of blows my mind how we have one narrative on the show and a completely different one in this book. can't say completely different, but definitely a different viewpoint and more kind of inside their deep, dark feelings and thoughts about each other. And yet the show continued to go on, didn't miss a beat. I never felt like there was a book that came out that was scandalous. Like I knew the book came out and I thought, oh, maybe I should read that at some point, and then forgot about it. But I'm shocked at the things that they are saying about each other inside this book. It really does blow my mind.
Right, right. And to be honest with you, uh, let's get where is this at? Okay, let's get us in. The book is incoherent.
No,
Is
no.
incoherent at all?
We're all over the place. And the timelines,
Right.
it's like a TLC timeline. It's almost like TLC edited this book where it's like, what year are we in? What holiday is it? What everything. And the fact that they have all four people talk about a subject, but not a time. I was saying this actually on Thursday night at my live, that my brain is much more linear. I tend to be a little more left brain than right brain. So this book is a challenge for me because I am not used to jumping here and then there and then here and then there and then here. I just really would have loved it if they would have chronologically gone through the situations and then said, now we're going to talk about Christine's wedding. And then all four of them could still shared about it. But now we're going to Robin's, like it would just...
Right.
Because this jumping around, because it then seems like I feel like I'm constantly going back in the book to look things up because it feels contradictory, or I know we talked about this, but how does it fit into what we said before? Because the same stories come up again, but with different detail as you go along.
Right.
So yeah, the book drives me nuts. I don't like the editing of it at all. If it was edited, I really feel like the Browns themselves may have just edited it based on the grammar of a lot of the sentences.
Let's just put it together and see what happens.
Yeah.
I can do it.
Yeah.
I'll take over for that.
Yeah.
Editors cost money. You don't know? Like they start digging into your cut. So all of a sudden it's like producing your own record. I'll play the music. I could play the spittoon.
I could do that. Right. Yeah. And there's no editor listed in the book, but of course the publishing company's listed. I don't know if it's implied. I have to go pull out a few of my books and look. I always thought the editor was listed at the beginning of the book, if there was one.
Yeah, they usually are.
And I did not.
It could have been in-house though.
Yeah, so it was just somebody in Simon and Schuster that, who's now fired.
Right. or at least taking a grammar class. You need to brush up, brother.
Yes. Yes.
What are you doing? Comma periods are your friends. So, what do you think about like the like in the first sentence? Like Meri. Meri is one of those characters, to be honest with you, that in the first sentence of her section on sorority, which is obviously Greek for sisterhood. Like, so when they she starts talking about sorority and the sisterhood, the sister wives, and the first thing she says about about sister wives is like, many women who choose plural marriage idealize the nature of sister wives. Like that was the first sentence. So already you're off to a bad start, because if you have an idealized version of marriage or an idealized version of anything that you plan on participating in, it will always blow up in your face and backfire. If you get into a monogamous marriage and you think that, in an idealized version of marriage, we're always going to be in love and we're going to be booed up and we're always, we're never going to argue. And if we have a disagreement, we'll sit down and rationally discuss things. And then we'll make sure that we never go to sleep angry. You are in for a rude awakening, because marriage can be difficult at times. Like there will be times when you are deeply in love, and there'll be times when you question whether this relationship is working out for you. It's just part of the gig, and like that, I'm sure that when you have a sister wife, especially you're incorporating people into your relationship, it's going to be difficult, because you're bringing somebody in who's going to have a different view of your relationships. Did you have any thoughts on like the whole first section of the book? where she started talking about like her views on sisterhood.
Yeah. And tagging on what you just said there, what I find interesting is that I feel like it's pretty common knowledge today that marriage is hard. When, 50% of marriages are ending and everybody goes into it believing this is for life. Yeah, this is till the day I die. And that half of them don't work out. There's an understanding that this is not easy. And I know if you get married in the church, that counseling is often required before a pastor will marry you. He'll make you go through counseling and make you talk through the difficult questions before he marries you, so that if you decide, there's no way this is going to work out, that decision is made prior to the marriage. Like, now you guys go your separate ways. You're never going to agree on the child thing or whatever the bone of contention might be. And until you work this out, then I'll marry you. But until then, you're not, it helps the couple realize too. It's not just the pastor saying, no, by my authority, I refuse. It's an awakening for the couple of like, wow, we're really not on the right page. So the notion, marriage is so difficult because you have two different people who have two different upbringings and two different points of view and come from two different walks of life, coming together and living under the same roof. It's understandable that it takes a while to work through and that you go through ups and downs in your life. But then to bring in more and to have them sleeping with your husband, I've said this before, it just blows my mind that they wouldn't think that they have this, or at least Meri had this Pollyanna, and I think Christine did as well, this Pollyanna attitude towards it, that, I just can't wait. I'm so excited. This is going to be great. And part of that whole introduction too, the number of times just in the first 2 pages that Meri talks about so excited that she's getting her friend. She just stopped talking about sister wife and it just became friend. I'm looking forward to informing friendships and relationships. As I imagined it would be the most natural thing in the world for my sister wives and me to form instantaneous friendships. I was eager for my first sister wife to be my friend. She and I became close friends right away. It's like friend. I felt like I was just getting beaten over the head with her constant reiteration of Meri didn't think through the fact her friend would sleep with her husband.
Right.
She's
and
so
there's a couple people in
eager.
the chat saying that.
Yeah.
Like a couple people in the chat are calling that out. Becky, flying chocolate in the house. But they're calling that out. They're saying that there's no way that you can have friends and you can be close to people and they not sleep with your significant other. Like, it's possible. It's okay for you to go shopping with somebody, and then each of you go home to your separate homes, to your separate spouses or separate people. Like, you don't have to share germs in order for you to feel close to people.
Yeah.
And that's one of the weird things about it. And then to just the idealized version, and just to jump ahead a little bit, because this is something that actually I thought about with regard to Seeking Sister Wives. This show that comes on TLC Monday night. It's right after we do our show with the Sister Lives or whatever on Mondays. It comes on right after that. But on Seeking Sister Wives, there's always this concept that people, the first wife or the couple, are essentially bringing somebody into their relationship. And one of the key points that I've always thought when you do that is you have to understand, as a participant in that polygamous or polyamorous relationship, you have to understand that once you bring somebody else in, they have to be regarded as an equal partner to your relationship, which means that your relationship is thereby destroyed. Your current relationship no longer exists between you and your significant other, because now you're adding another person and a new relationship has to form between the 3 of you or the 4 of you or the 5 of you, however, twosome, threesome, foursome, moresome, however many people you have. Every time you add a different person, you bring in a different personality, you bring in a different perspective, and that person is adding to this thing you call your relationship, which completely changes the fundamental ground of what your relationship was. So you're essentially destroying the union that you have so that you can build something new, whether it's better or worse, but it's something different. And you have to appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good point. The idea that it is divided, not multiplied. It's really the truth of it. The only time that it's multiplied is if you're just not into your husband. Then you're like, okay, there's one day less I have to be with him. And yeah, I'll just develop friendships with the other gals who are busy. I felt like these wives really did love Cody when they married him. So that's what made it so difficult for them to be sister wives in the terms of being good friends. It was too hurtful for them. So it depends. I guess it's a catch-22. You have a wife that if you're marrying people who really don't love you, then you're fine. Then it might work out and everybody will get along and it will be great. But if they really love the husband, there's no way that you can say, I really love him and I'm okay with him sleeping with somebody else.
Yeah, and that's a big, and I think it's one of those like intellectually, everybody likes to think they're cool. I'm cool enough to where I can handle it because I understand what's going on and da 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 da, and you can put it together and maybe you can rationalize. I think it's more or less probably the better term for it. You can rationalize participating in this. The problem that I think you will always encounter is that your feelings don't care about your intellect and what you think about things. You're going to feel jealousy. You're going to feel envy. And what I would even call this, I thought about this chapter as I was reading through it. One word just kept popping out at me and it just kept dinging like a bell. And that word is insecurity, because that's a lot of what I hear in Mary's description of her relationship with Cody. She was insecure in that relationship. When he started adding wives, she was insecure when the wives started coming in. Janelle comes in, that shakes the foundation of her relationship. Christine comes in, that shakes the foundation of her relationship. Janelle gets pregnant, that shakes the foundation not only of her relationship, but her image of herself as a woman, because to her, a woman is somebody who is having children for her husband. And that shook the foundation of who she was. And I thought that part of it really hit me, because there are people who may want to have children and can't. And for you to anchor your identity on that thing, and you can't achieve it it's a hard pill to swallow. It's a hard pill to swallow, because already you're met with the challenge of not being able to procreate. But then if you're saying that if I can't procreate, then what am I worth? And your worthiness and value is tied to your ability to be able to create, hit the copy button. Then it's a rough situation. And I felt for her in that instance. But what did you think about there was something she had said on page 87 where she starts talking about trust. And she said, this is what my deal is always imagined. Like, so when she started talking about the whole idea of the sister wives, it was something where she had to feel trust with this other person. And, talking about feeling betrayed and if they can't have that, they can't build that relationship. And some of the things that she described, even when she was talking about formulating those relationships, she said, paradoxically, I'm reserved, but at times I can be opinionated, which makes me cautious about quickly forging close relationships with women. In forming friendships and relationships, I need to feel safety and trust with the other person before I feel I can open up a deep relationship. And it's funny to me because there's so many things that the Sister Wives of the Brown family describes, and they attribute it to being a polygamist. But I for one, just want to stop and say, stop. That's everybody. Everybody needs to feel close and feel like they can trust somebody before they start lowering their field or lowering their walls to let those people in. Everybody has to do that. So it's not a unique thing and it's not like a superpower She-Ra tale of heroism for you to say that, you know, in
Mhm.
order for me to get close to people, I have to feel like I trust them before I actually
Mhm.
start building relationships with them.
It's like, well,
That's
good for
everybody.
you.
Right? Good job. Very good. Very good.
And that whole first page there, Mary is talking about that teenage girl. You know, she starts talking about the
Hmm.
whole relationship with that teenager that eventually didn't work out. And what's interesting is she almost contradicts herself there because this teenager was someone who Mary had an instant attraction to and was
Right.
drawn to right away. And I had written down here that 6 times she wrote the word friend in relation to this girl. And there's not that much
Right.
about her before it says it didn't work out in the very end.
Hmm.
And yet Janelle's was described on page 88 as a cordial relationship and that she never thought she would be a sister wife, which I find so interesting because Janelle was her sister-in-law. Like, how is it that she didn't how is it she never got this bond with someone she knew so well for so much? Why did she not try to forge the friendship with Janelle back then, even before it was ever on the
Right.
radar of a sister wife? Because she clearly wasn't friends with her at all at this time. I kind
Yeah.
of felt for Janelle in that space because she was kind of like, oh, this young 18-year-old I just love, or 17-year-old at the time, and we're besties and we get along and everything's so great and it didn't work out. And then it's just sort of the Janelle, when she goes into talking about Janelle coming in the family, it's like, well, I didn't see this coming. How could that be? Like, I mean, I guess she's like, we never really just had a cordial relationship. She wouldn't even call it a friendship on any level
Right.
with her. So I'm thinking, well, no wonder the two of them went at it from the get-go. And there could be a huge story in there. Like maybe she's really upset about the divorce. I mean, he left Janelle, but who knows why? You know, like there's never been deets about that whole story other than he left after 6 months, but it took 2 years for the divorce to go through. And throughout this time, Janelle just kept getting closer with his family. And
Right.
even went to Mary's wedding during the separation with the brother-in-law. Like it was still this awkward kind of 2-year period of time that they were together. I just found it interesting that she went from the one to the other. And I feel like I started writing in the margins, dis.
Right.
Because I'm like, the number of disses and digs that Mary is throwing is
Right. Right.
kind of amazing. And that goes back to what I said at the beginning about like just sort of being shocked at the things, especially Mary, because Mary and Janelle don't say a whole bunch. Now, if it were Christine's chapter,
Right.
I would get it. But Mary on the show doesn't say a whole bunch. So I feel like for her to describe Janelle's interest in Cody as she was surprised and she didn't think Cody had feelings for her, and the whole thing just appeared platonic, and it is just such a polar opposite from her own story and how she explained my true love and my soulmate and everything, and how wonderful and how loving and how touchy and how affectionate they were with each other. And then also talking about this girl and how excited she was about the girl, and they were going to be great friends. And that who knows what the relationship between her and Cody was? They never really go into that. But I just felt like it was a complete flip when we're all of a sudden talking about Janelle. I'm like, well, this is giving a little bit more groundwork and understanding to why they never really worked it out amongst each other. That, along with what we'll get to later about the fact that she struggled with communication. But yeah, she just right from the get-go, it appears she didn't think much of Janelle,
Right.
quite frankly. And then I feel like she came to terms with it though as a wife though, because she admits that she still felt like she was top dog then. Because she's like, well, they
Right.
just
Right.
have this buddy relationship. So, all right, bring her on as a wife. But then that's not going to work out as the friend that she said she always wanted.
Right. Right. And I think that that's part of it. For those who are unaware, the uninitiated. Yeah, right. The way they talk about it in the book or at least Mary describes the early years of the relationship between her and Janelle. She essentially says, for those who may not know, so that we're all on the same page, Janelle was once married to Mary's brother. So technically, they were in laws already. And that's what Jenny was referring to when she said that they were married and they got divorced 6 months after they were married. Well, they separated 6 months after they were married. It took them 2 years to finalize that divorce or create that permanent separate from the division of the union. With that being said, I think that the way, and then Mary, just to give a little more background, Mary describes her relationship with Janelle as being cordial at best. So this is somebody who she sees around, but she doesn't have a close relationship with Janelle. She doesn't feel any connection to Janelle. Now, a point that, as Jenny had mentioned earlier, which makes the book a little more confusing, is that when you hear Mary talk about it, it's like Janelle just kind of popped up. She was always around, like, hiding in the corner, hiding at the, family events. And she's just kind of sitting in the cut, waiting for stuff to happen. And all of a sudden she pops up one day and it turns out that her and Cody are kind of interested in each other and they may pursue a relationship. But if we recall and we go back to Janelle and Cody's first thing when they were talking about matrimony and they were talking about their courtship, Cody was hot on Janelle. He was hot on her tail. He would go and visit her. They would go to lunch. They would have these discussions. So it wasn't just the fact that Cody was like, they play it off. And I think that the book does a good job of doing that to support the idea or notion that Cody and Janelle just simply have these deep conversations because they have an intellectual relationship, which made it surprising for a lot of folks when they heard that Janelle was she's knocking down Jericho's walls on Cody and he can't handle it. She tearing him to pieces. Like they just couldn't handle the fact that their relationship was physically dynamic because it was never described as such, especially from the other wives. But I think that ultimately, and this is just my perspective, I think that when Janelle came into the family, part of what made Janelle acceptable to Mary on a minuscule view, like you said, she didn't like the fact that they weren't close and they weren't the idealized sister wives and they weren't, two hot women who are married to the same man, living a desperate housewife life on TV. But instead, she looked at Janelle as less than. I get that feeling from the way she describes it in the book.
Yeah,
I don't
absolutely.
know if you agree with that or disagree with that, but I don't think she saw because I wrote in my notes that I don't think she saw Janelle as a sexual rival. Like she didn't think that Janelle was competition for her as far as achieving Cody's sexual interest.
No, I agree with that. And I even put in both of the margins 2 disses on this page from Mary to Janelle, and they're both related to that. They're both relating to the fact that she felt like she had this great relationship and Janelle didn't. At first she said, I immediately saw that Cody and I would have one type of relationship, the passionate, romantic one that we've always had, while he and Janelle would have another, something more cerebral. And then later on, she throws in, I was happy for Janelle to have been chosen and to have been chosen by such a wonderful man after her failed relationship with my brother.
Right.
It's just like, oh, that was so unnecessary to throw that extra tag at the end of the sentence after her failed relationship with my brother.
And I pivot on the word of her. Like this is not in blame. Her failed relationship with my brother, not the failed marriage between my brother and her or whatever.
Yeah,
failed union because it takes 2 to tango. It takes 2 to make it. It takes 2 to break it. So
yes,
what are we doing, Mary?
And that's what makes me think that Mary may have been harboring things about that whole relationship and the breakup or however it all happened to go down. Now, we do know that Janelle got her brother to leave the AUB and become LDS to get married. So maybe it had something to do with that she felt like she was manipulating her in some way. And then now she's going to go AUB, after she made my brother leave it. But now she's going to come to it to take my husband.
She's coming back. Yeah, right.
Yes.
And the crazy part is, I think a lot of the animosity, and this is just my perspective, but it just feels like a lot of the animosity that Meri had. And I see this again, if you watch Seeking Sister Wives, you see it in the early stages. A lot of the animosity that Meri has strictly comes from the idea or notion that this woman is coming to take your man. And I think that is what the rudimentary problem that she has. So it's not just like, I can see where the brother thing, like her being married, because that would be weird to me. That would be very hella weird to me. That,
Yeah.
it's too much jumping around for me. Like I don't want to sit at a table with I couldn't even date my friends' exes. Like so
yeah.
That would be weird to me, that like you were married to my family and then all of a sudden I'm jumping right on. No. But I get that. But at the same time, I think that it's that, and then one more of you're coming to get my dude, and I don't like it, and I'm jealous of it, but I'm not supposed to be. And I think that that's the big conflict that they have too, is that they're not supposed to be jealous, because their whole life they're told that, this is the great relationship, is perfect, and it's a wonderful thing, and you can get through it, and you'll develop these close ties and these close bonds with these women, and you guys will share a man, but it won't bother you after a while. But I don't think she ever got to a point where it didn't bother her.
Yeah.
And we'll see that even as she goes through Janelle, it bothers her. She goes through Christine, it bothers her. She goes through Robin, where on the show they pretended like it was all cool in the gang, but she admits in the book that it bothered her.
I was shocked when I first read that in the book about how she was really bothered by Robin. Absolutely. I have one more line that I had written down here. I don't know if I read this one, but I've written it on my paper. When she said she was relieved that they weren't conventionally romantic, she added that Janelle's presence was not a threat in any way to Cody and I. And I just thought, ouch. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'm not sweating that, because, he got all this.
Yeah.
That's what that is. He got all this. He ain't even worried about what's over there. He just married her for the numbers. Like, what?
I'm like, she found every different way she could find to say the same thing. But throw it in another paragraph and but she's creative. I appreciate it. It wasn't redundant. It was just she used different language and couched it in different ways. But every single one of them, I was like, ooh, dis, ooh, ow, dis. And maybe it was just because at the time she was writing the book, she was really not getting along with Janelle, because now Janelle and Christine are friends at this point. So it's kind of at the introduction of Robin coming in. And so I don't think she even really tried at that point anymore, because she's like, okay, well, Robin's going to be my friend, so I'll let the two of them be friends. So she never really worked through all the animosity and friction that she had with Janelle. And so maybe this is her way of getting it out, and which I can see, because, she is still like the wallflower. I mean, she's gotten way better as the seasons have gone. I mean, season 18, she's a whole different Meri than she was in the first 10 seasons. But it took a long time. I mean, there's a line in here that mentions that she had to start therapy because she was working through things. She had been married at that point 20 years when Robin was coming into the family. And she realized that her and Cody had different ways of communicating. So they just didn't communicate. She would want to talk it all out. He would want to not, and just pretend like it didn't happen. So she acquiesced to him, because that's what you do in a polygamous relationship. And so they just never talked about anything for 20 years. Can you imagine? Like, well, it seems like, I'm like, well, no wonder things were bad. All right, we'll get to that later, though. That's not yet.
Hey, Scarlett, what's going on?
Hey, Scarlett, Jennifer.
But because one of the things that hit me is the fact that, like, there's a lot of good. Well, I guess Janelle too. was was given as good as she was getting. Because as it turns out, Janelle and Cody had planned to get married on Mary's birthday, which
Mm-hmm.
is it's and it had to be explained to them. Like it's amazing to me that a man who has so many women,
Mm-hmm.
apparently, like he has access to so many women, he's 4 wives or whatever, and it takes so much explaining for him to understand basic concepts. Like,
Yeah.
don't get married to your new wife or your other wife, or I'm about to call her old wife, but their previous wife's birthday or
Yeah.
anniversary. Don't replace anniversaries.
Could you
You know what I
imagine?
mean? Like, yeah, I can't imagine. Apparently, they don't care. Like, Cody, zero planning, a zero planning.
Yeah.
365 days of the year, you decide on this one day. Come on now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's get it together, player. Let's do this.
And
Listen,
think,
and there's a point of respect to that I think kind of has to be talked about with regard to that, because what I don't see, especially in a lot of these, like I said, I do the whole Secret Sister Wives thing. You can see it in the early stages. What I don't see a lot of times is any modicum of respect that these people have for their partners and the other participants in these relationships. So you have, for instance, Mary doesn't really respect the power of Janelle as a sexual partner. She respects her as a wife and as a sister wife, but she doesn't expect the sexual autonomy that Janelle brings to her relationship with Cody in that intimate moment. She thinks that in other words, I'm more important. And the way it's kind of described, or at least the way it comes off to me, is that Mary wasn't just comfortable because she thought that Janelle wasn't her sexual rival, but she was also comfortable because in this setting, especially because Janelle didn't use her voice in this relationship, didn't assert herself, she
mm-hmm.
saw Janelle as a plus one in her relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Janelle wasn't a full partner. She was a plus one. She was an add-on. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty much setting up the house the way I want it to be set up, and it's going to run the way I want it to run. We're going to do the things I want to do, and
Mm-hmm.
you are a plus one. You're not, you don't have really a say. You can say whatever you want, but you don't really
Mm-hmm.
have a say. We'll talk about that because that's the interesting point, or at least I think it's the interesting point. But it's something that's of note later on when she's talking about her value to the family because
Yeah.
she can't have kids and losing her place in the family.
Yeah. And
So,
she did admit in the book that incident, I don't remember the exact terminology, but she basically admitted that was the incident that she never got over, was the concept that this was getting planned. I do kind of find it interesting that she's not upset with her husband about it. I mean,
right.
the sister wife, I don't even know if she knows when your birthday is. I mean, she probably does because you were a sister-in-law at one point. But like, I mean, there's no mention of him taking any heat for this. And I can't remember. I think it was right around here where she talks about it, but she said something to the effect of this was the thing that is what made the relationship so difficult between Janelle and I. And it seemed like it was going to go on forever. I'm like, that is a grudge that she held for many, many years over that. Like, I mean, do not cross Meri is basically what we're learning in this chapter, because that was it's still a very long time. I don't know. I mean, I guess when they were in Vegas, there was some time when Meri did reach out to Janelle, but on the season, and they were going to go to therapy together and that. But based on the interaction of that, it felt like, well, and again, I had not read the book at this point. I wish I would have. So that would have given a framework more to this situation when I'm like, oh, they're not getting along. Okay. But it really seemed like Janelle, it was a little too late. Janelle sort of felt like, yeah, no, this isn't happening. Looks like house turkey.
Yeah, Virgo. I think Danny and Virgo hit the nail on the head, because I'll tag team the both of them, because Danny had said, let's just call it out. Meri didn't respect Janelle because, she's a big girl. It's like she didn't respect the big girl love.
Mm-hmm.
But Virgo hit the nail on the head.
Big girl love, though.
Yeah, Cody was all about it. He's like, you don't know what she's doing to me, player.
Yeah.
You don't know
I
what she's
do
doing.
like how in a season 18 or 17, I get the two of them mixed up because they were both such like pinnacle seasons of obviously 18 being even bigger than 17, but 17 it really began the whole COVID and the whole breakdown of the family and everything. But I believe it was 18 I really appreciated how Janelle really implied that she is a freak in the sheets and that the two of them really did. Like, yes, I know I always said we had a cerebral thing in that, but like it was good. And Cody got like all red and embarrassed when he was approached by it too. And I just feel like this was Janelle's revenge. To everybody, to all the sister, went to Meri for the book, to Robin, who still has him and won't let him go. Like, I just felt like when she said that, I was just like, oh, Janelle, yes. Okay.
Yeah, watch out for the big girl. That's why that's
That's
the song.
right.
Watch out for the big girl.
Yeah, because,
at the end of the day.
And Robin threw lots of digs at her weight throughout the seasons. There were a lot of underhanded comments about Janelle's weight as you went through the season, and just weight in general about the kids shouldn't be able to. They've had enough of that. You had one bowl of cereal, you don't need another one. It was a constant hyper sensitivity to look in the right way, which she learned from her mother, Alice, that you should be a certain way for your husband. But Cody said from the beginning that he's not necessarily into that. I don't know if I believe it or not. I don't know if that was Robin's way of trying to say, I'm the skinny one. And Cody said that he likes bigger girls. I don't know. That might just be Robin.
Well, I think that there's a point where if you are a guy who isn't secure, I mean, a guy, girl, but from my perspective, like I've known men who weren't secure with who they were and who their partners were. And they very well may enjoy spending time with one person, but when they go out and they want to show off or they want to, impress somebody, they like to have another person with them. And I think that could be a dynamic that exists in Sister Wives. When he's taking the pictures with Robin, you're like, wow, me and Robin take a great picture. But when it comes to the push and pull in the bedroom, he's like, I'd rather have, Janelle, because, she know what I like. I mean, we'll push him down the show. We're going to cut. I'm trying to be as diplomatic as possible, but to cut through the sheets a little bit, what it comes down to is that Janelle was of the world as well. Janelle was not one of the she was not, he had two wives who were of the world. And I say of the world, just meaning they weren't sheltered by the AUB's polite society. So she's been out there in the world, dating men, doing her thing. And so she may come in like Liam Neeson said in Taken. She has a set of skills that she's developed over years. Like,
I think she did. Yeah. He was, yeah. I really think she did. And I really think that she thought everything in their relationship was great. I think that's why I feel like she was really flabbergasted and shocked at Cody's behavior and attitude towards her kids and her in that last season, like kind of the crumbling of the whole relationship, because I think that she thought that everything is good with us. So, and she's not one to kiss and tell. So she let everyone else think that they had the one up, but she kind of knew she had the skills.
Right. And I think that and to her credit, or just with her personality, I think it does feed into the idea or notion that Janelle liked the idea of being presented as the intellectual one. She liked the idea of being presented as the always reasonable, rational one. So in some regards, if you view yourself that way, to also make yourself the point or pinnacle of sexual attraction or allure, then somehow that diminishes you from that position. So she may have shied away from being, viewed as a sexual object, or a sexual person. I won't say object, but viewed as a sexual person.
Yeah.
And she traded that for, well, I'm really smart and he loves me for my mind, But meanwhile, back at the ranch, it's going down. So, and I give her credit for that. And I'm kind of actually one of the things that, I remember I said that before, and somebody said, you got to stop talking about it. It's so disgusting. I have a twisted sense of pleasure from that, just because everybody has taken shots at her for so many seasons.
Mm.
Like, it wasn't just Robin, but she's been hit a few times about her weight. She's been feeling a certain kind of way about her self image. And
Mhm.
for her to have that power in
Mhm.
her, and for her to demonstrate that, I take
Mhm.
that as a victory. Like, and I'm
Mhm.
happy. Like, I have a weird sense. Like, I'm happy for her, but I'm like, yeah, Janelle, damn right.
That's
Don't
right.
sweat them. Don't let them.
Yeah.
Don't let them put you down, girl. You got
Yeah.
it going on.
Yeah.
And don't let
Absolutely.
nobody tell you that you ain't worthy.
Yeah.
And worthy up, right? Ain't that what, you know what it is? Worthy up.
And I'm not a guy, but just from the little bit of the guys that I've talked to, I feel like it would be a consensus amongst all of them that they would all, given two things, a skinny, pretty thing to be in bed with, and one who really knows what she's doing and is a good time.
Yeah, every day of the
They're
week.
less about the skinny,
Twice on
pretty
Sunday.
thing. You want the one that's a
Every
good
day of the
time.
week. Twice on Sunday. You know what I mean? Like, dogs, what they saying back in the day was like, dogs like bones. but but it's just, it is how you carry yourself. Like, I don't even think it's like just the physical
Yeah.
aspect, but it's how you carry yourself.
Hmm.
Because you could be in rooms with people who have been like, I've been in rooms where you see folks and they're like ridiculously scantily dressed,
Hmm.
lot of sexuality on display.
Hmm.
And I've seen where somebody with, 3 times more clothes and cover come in and blow them out of the water just with the way they carry themselves, with the confidence that they carry themselves,
Yeah.
the assuredness that they carry themselves, and they have just a sexy way about them, and that
Hmm.
carries the day. So there's like there is a point of maturity that goes into it too. When you're a young guy, then it's all about the look. But as you start to get older, you start realizing that there's more to it. There's more to this
Hmm.
ride than just the shiny fenders.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that you get the best out of it. But what
Yeah.
did you think about we talked about Mary not feeling threatened by Janelle, um, talking about the wedding. What do you think about Mary expressing that during the course of the relationship she had separation anxiety because she wasn't spending enough time with Cody. She wasn't getting her Cody time in like she was before she started sharing her husband, which is ridiculous to me. Of course, you're not going to see him every day if you're sharing him. That's the whole
Hmm.
point of you sharing them, right? You know
Hmm.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I
I,
can't
I
believe
think
he's
this is
not in
the
my
point.
house every day.
I think I wrote on that when I was writing notes about it. I just wrote obvious. Like some
Right,
of the
right.
most obvious things she's stating here. And I'm like, yes. And I don't like, why is this news? Why are you saying this is a revelation to you? But in fairness, these were all revelations to Mary. She was completely so naive in so many
Right.
ways. So naive that she didn't know how to communicate. She didn't know what she was even feeling herself. She couldn't think through the plan of I want a friend, so I'm going to get a friend here to be his wife, so I have my own friend. Oh shoot, he's sleeping with my husband now, and now I have less time that I had before. Like
Right.
she just the whole struggle of all of that. Yeah, was it's just amazing to me, and I just felt like it was one of the numerous times in this chapter that I just felt like, yes, Mary,
Of course.
yes,
Of course.
of
Of
course.
course. And it goes back to something that Flying Chocolate she wrote something else. Janelle being freaky, he meant she was on top. They seem very sheltered. Flying Chocolate, you being bad. Probably accurate, but bad. But Flying Chocolate said something earlier too, where she was saying that, you can be friends with people and not share your bed with them, or
Yeah.
have your husband share your bed with them. And
Hmm.
that's one of the things, like, it seems like the thing that they say they want is incommensurate with the thing that they actually are getting. Like, you say you want to have this close friendship with this woman and build this bond and be able to trust her. Trust
Hmm.
her. But then you want to give her your husband, and then you're mad because your husband takes her. Like, it's
Hmm.
just weird to me. Like, and
Hmm.
that's why I say that you really, I say this about any relationship, but especially with these types of relationships, in my perspective, my pedestrian view, I think you really have to understand who you are. Like you have to do a lot of work on you to figure out what you can handle, what you can tolerate, and what you can take. Because these types of relationships are not for everybody. Like this is not something you can just kind of pop into and think that you're going to be okay. And that's the big part of it. Like you're just not going to be okay sharing your person. And I think that's where Mary is kind of banging her head against the wall because I think that at some point she thought she was going to get over it and it was going to be easier. But every time a wife came in, she talks about how she has a problem with that wife coming into the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Every time. You know,
Mm-hmm.
even the one that she was excited about coming into a relationship with. Once she got into the family and they started dating and they started courting, it seemed like, oh wow, they getting serious. Now all of a sudden
Mm-hmm.
it's a problem, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So you really like before you agree to do this kind of stuff, you really gotta know what your limits are. But again, not some
Absolutely.
people can't do this. I'm sure there are people who can do
I feel
it. Not a
like
lot.
Mary also at one point, and this might kind of go in line with it too. Oh gosh, I have so many notes on these 2 pages. um, but it reminds me of another note that I made here when Mary was talking about her harsh and excessive behavior and, you know, needed for counseling and everything. And she, at the beginning of all this, just refers to her harsh and excessive behavior as being honest. She's like,
Right, right, right.
I'm just being honest. And I'm like, as I was reading it, I'm like, well, okay, no wonder you have no friends. You know,
Right.
I get it now. Like, who wants to? I felt like she had no comprehension and understanding that in order to have friends, you must first be a friend. And I don't think she
Right.
understood how to be a friend. So I feel like which is interesting because she was the oldest in her family. So you feel like she should have been in a position of having to be sacrificial and giving of her time and everything for her younger siblings. Or maybe she's just
Right.
resentful of all of that. And she felt like, whew, I'm gone now. Now it's my time. And, you know, or maybe she never had times to develop real friendships because I do believe there was a gap between her and when the sisters started. A lot of them are significantly younger. So it was always sort of a parent-child relationship between her and her siblings that she never had that opportunity to really learn how to be a friend, that she just felt like it was add water and stir to get friendships,
Right.
you know, like, oh, I'll just bring her into the family and, oh, this is going to be great. Now we're going to be best friends, you know, and that no effort needed to be given on her part, that it literally took her going to therapy 20 years into her marriage to start to understand what her role was and how she's coming across to other people and why you can't. It's actually very trending today. If you sit there and watch any other reality TV shows of anyone in their 20s and that, everyone just likes to hang every nasty comment they say on, I'm just being honest. Like, it's okay that I hurt you.
Right.
It's okay that I'm rude. It's okay that I'm, you know, like all these negative behaviors are all okay couched in honesty, as long as it's
Right.
honest. And it's
Right.
like, well, when did our generation switch that all of a sudden we thought we're all sinful beings? We do not say everything that goes through our minds. We can't walk around like that, you know, can't make comments about the person standing in front of you in line. You can't, you know, like that's what you do
Right.
when
Right.
you're 2 years old. And, you know, my son went up to one of the relatives at a Christmas party and said, "You're fat." And I was like, oh my gosh, you know, as somebody he never sees. And it was the first time he'd seen
Right.
somebody excessively large. And so, that's what it sort of reminds me of. And I'm like, okay, he was
Well,
between 2 and 3 at the time. And I
yeah.
just thought, oh,
Yeah.
shoot, yeah, we haven't really worked through this and explained it. And so I tried to explain to him then, and then we started to work through it then. But I feel like she was kind of emotionally still at that level of like, I can just blurt out and say whatever I want, you know, and
Right.
partly also because she was wife number one, that she felt she had that platform as well. And it seemed like Cody never put her in her place when she did it, because one, he loved her when he married her, and two, he realized he wouldn't get anywhere with her, that because their communication styles were so different. So he defaulted to, okay, we're just not discussing this anymore. It's over. And it just made things worse. But that was part of it too. This was the first time reading through it that I thought, wow, she wants friends so bad, but she doesn't understand how to be a friend.
Right. Well, because I think that there's I think that there's a point where when you're starting out, first and foremost, I think that there's a lowering of filters just because of social media and our interactions, the way we interact with each other now.
Mm-hmm.
People are online and they're kind of not coming in contact with one another. So they just say things that, kind of come out of their mouth a little sideways just because they're not used to dealing with people who can, reach out and touch you. The second part of it is that I've always had a pet peeve with people who claim to be saying things out of honesty. I think I've said this before, but my thing is that what I find when people say, I'm just being honest, I'm just an honest person, I just speak my mind, I tell people what I think, that a lot of times it's not coming from a place of honesty, but it's coming from a place of cruelty. Because
Mm-hmm.
there is a subtle difference between
Mm-hmm.
you being honest and you being cruel and being
Mm-hmm.
nasty. The second part that annoys the hell out of me with people like that is not just the cruelty, but it's also the fact that if you live such an honest life, then does that allow me to be honest with you? Because you want to be honest with me, you want to tell me what you think about me all day long. Like, I think this, I think that, you're too short, you're too fat, you're too tall, you're too this, too that. And the second I say something back, now all of a sudden I'm the worst person in history because I'm being honest too. And I'm crossing lines.
Mm-hmm.
If we're going to have that type of relationship where you can say whatever you want to say to me, then we have to have the type of relationship where I get to say whatever I want to say to you too. And both of us are just supposed to just sit there and suck it up and take it.
Mm-hmm.
What we can't do is have a relationship where you get to say whatever you want to say to me, and I don't get to say whatever I want to say to you, and I just take all your toxicity in and never defend myself or protect myself, because at the end of the day, the only thing that happens in that situation is I get diminished. So every time you cut on me, I become smaller, and I'm trying to learn and maneuver in this situation, and I don't get to be me.
Yeah.
And I can't have that. I can't have a situation where I can't be who I am. And so when you look at Meri, I think that part of what impacted her was that when she was younger, she was the quiet one. She was the one nobody knew. She was the one who was in the relationship with Christine, been to her house. And she had no idea who she was until she started dating a man that she liked. Christine had no idea who Meri was until she started dating and married a man that Christine thought was attractive. So that's kind of where Meri was. And then, like you said, I think that her being the first wife and having that relationship with Cody, and because she relied on Cody to give her that power, she was relying on Cody to say, well, I can do whatever I want, and I'm just going to say whatever I want because I'm here and you're here.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with that is that when another wife comes in and she's supposed to be equal to you, that starts to challenge not only your position in the family, but it starts to challenge your identity.
Yeah.
Because now you're not the first wife. You're not the one who has that tight relationship.
Yeah.
And it creates problems. And again, that falls back to insecurities.
And I think the person that behaves in such a way, the person who does always feel like they can speak their mind, but you can't speak it back to me, that all stems from deep down inside insecurity. Like, I'm going to puff myself up and I'm going to say all these things and protect myself by throwing digs at you. And then not really accepting them back either. And that really was the MO for so long, because neither Christine or Janelle ever really fought back until that one time when Janelle did, I think McKelty was already like 11, 13, something like, so the older kids were like early teens, is the first time that Christine really said she blew up and yelled back at Meri and, kind of defended herself. And so it was many, many years of that happening before it was eventually worked out, which is really on all of them. You know, you can't just blame Meri. If nobody puts her in her place, she doesn't know any better. You know, this is who she is right now. And it's like who we all are initially. You know, we're all selfish at birth. We learn to be giving. We learn to be selfless. We learn what's the appropriate way to behave and all that. But deep down inside, you know, when you're a child, you just want what you want, and you just want to grab, and you just want to yell at people when they're not right to you. You haven't really learned how to appropriately monitor yourself and all that. So I do blame the other sister wives and Cody as well for letting her go that long.
Right.
It's on all of them. It really is.
And I think that's where that's where I'm at too, because I think that there is a point, and it's hard. Like, I get it. Not everybody has that the hell with it, I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna stand up for myself bone. But it's one of the things that I think that we all kind of have to develop, because the downside to this type of behavior is that the longer it goes on and the longer it's allowed to continue, it stops being something that you're allowing to happen, and it starts being an expectation from the other person. So when Meri is dealing with and talking to the other sister wives, she fully expects to say whatever she wants to say without any argument, without any reprisal. And as soon as, like, even with the instance with Christine and McKelty, she says something to McKelty all out of left field, and Christine loses her mind. There was probably part of Meri like, what the hell's going on? Like, why are you yelling at me? And it's a weird part of it where it almost becomes, for the person, the offending person, to them, it's a right. And it was, we see that also with Cody.
Yeah.
Because if we watch Cody in season 18, starting in season 16, he couldn't understand why Christine would pack his stuff up when he said that, I don't want to come by and be intimate with you no more. It blew his mind that I don't want to come by and knock your bottoms out. And she said, okay, well, fine, you're not going to sleep in my bed no more, because in my bedroom, that's a place where special things happen. There ain't nothing special happening in my bed. So guess what? Your stuff is in the garage now, bro. And then he went out to the garage. He was hurt. He was genuinely hurt. I can't believe my stuff is out here. She packed up everything. My heavy ass dresser is out here. Like, how did she get that down here? You know why she got it down here? Because she's strong as hell, because she ain't been with her in like months. She's strong as hell. So she picking up everything in the house one-handed. So she moved them out. Then when Janelle left, when she talked about moving back to Utah, I can't believe you're going to leave. Why would you do this? How are you going to do this to the family? How could you do this to me? Because I treated you however I wanted to treat you for so long, and you took it. And it becomes an expectation. And that's one of the hard things about it. And one of the things I talk to my kids about, I'm sorry, I'm going crazy, but one of the things I talk to my kids about, especially when they were coming up, is that when you allow that kind of thing to happen, especially in a relationship that you have to maintain, like familial or people that's going to be around you on a protracted time, not just people you meet for a season, but people who you're going to be around for a lifetime, in order for you to get that behavior to change, the longer it goes on, the more extreme the correction is going to have to be in order for you to get them for you to pull them back. And that's what makes it even more difficult. So it can go from like a terse conversation, difficult conversation, to you having to lay somebody out, lay them, cuss them out up and down and get wild on them in order for them to realize that they've done anything wrong. And then it might have to happen a few times, because the first time they might say, oh, he just lost. He's just upset. He don't know. He ain't mean that. And they go back to thinking they can treat you your own kind of way.
Yeah. The notion is beyond, I think, Cody for sure. And it was Meri. And maybe, I don't know so much about Janelle and Christine, but the idea that you have to change yourself, not only, as we mentioned before, that you're giving up time, that you are going to be more lonely because you're bringing in another sister wife. But in addition to that, your role has changed. It's very similar to like when my daughter got married. So after they ended up buying a house like a year, 2 years later. And I went down, and it's out of state. So I went down for a week to help out. I'm like, let me help you paint or do whatever it is that you need done.
Right.
And while I was there, I could find myself sliding into the role of my daughter's mom and talking to her. And we'd be like, and I'm like, you know what you need to do? And I'm like, first of all, I know
Right.
you just want to touch up the paint on all the baseboards, but honestly, if we just paint them all, it's going to look so much better. It's good, and then because that's just
Right.
who I am too. And so I related to this passage here where Meri was saying, like, I don't know how to hold back sometimes. I'm a direct person with strong opinions, and that I'm that way with my children because I am a parental figure to them.
Right.
And although we have an amazing relationship, I know that it's that way. And I would catch myself. And I remember at the end of the second day going, okay, I just realized that your husband's here too.
Right.
And so,
Right.
poor him, he's on his knees painting baseboards as well. We're all doing it together. And I'm like, I realized I got to stop being the mama hen. We are in a different phase in our life. This is your life now.
Right.
You should be telling me what you want done here. I shouldn't be telling you what you need to do in your house. And I apologize. And sure enough, I had overstepped my bounds. And at that point I go, I need you to tell me, because we had that relationship and she was used to it. She was just kind of like, okay, well, let's just go with that. Okay, well, let's just do that. I'm like, I need you to tell me when I'm overstepping my bounds, because I'm just naturally going to keep falling back into you and know what you need to do. And I don't want to be the mother-in-law that he never wants to have around.
Yeah,
And
don't bring him
I remember her saying,
come over, I got to do some work.
Yeah. She goes, she goes, he did say the other night, it was a good idea after all, the baseboards look so good, all bright white now. And I'm like, oh, which means he wasn't thrilled about it. But he went through with it. And he's like, okay, yeah, your mom was right. I'm glad we did it.
Right.
So, but nobody spoke up to me. So it's like every phase in your life, we go through transitions where we take on different roles. And so it's surprising to me that they had no concept that they are filling different positions in different roles, and they need to treat each other and talk to each other differently, given the situation. I mean, and they're living together too. It really just blows my mind that they couldn't figure this out.
Yeah, but there's also a big part of it, because with your relationship with your daughter, there's not a point where you didn't respect your daughter or you didn't respect your son-in-law.
True.
Whereas with Meri and her approach, because of the rivalry that she had with these ladies, and it's inbred, I'm saying inbred, but it's baked into the system that there is a natural rivalry that will happen between them, which will cause discord between each of the members of the family. And it could cause or lead to a form of disrespect in how you treat them, how you talk to them, and how you regard them. That I can see with, just the fact that, okay, well, something that's important to you. Like, for instance, I think that early on, Meri's sexual attention, the sexual interactions she had with Cody was the most important thing to her. To her, that validated her relationship. I'm not making, bad or good or whatever. I'm not placing value on it. I'm just saying that for some people, the physical aspect, I'm putting it down on them. I'm tearing her to pieces. Whatever, I'm blowing her back out. That's important to them. And I think to Meri, that was an important thing. So for her to take the thing that she valued and say that Janelle doesn't share that same level of value or bring that same level of value to the relationship that she does, that's a form of disrespect. And it's not saying, and again, that this isn't just, Meri being nasty or evil. It's just, I sympathize with her because I think that it's the nature of the thing or the institution that she's involved with that can cause a lot of these feelings, especially if you're trying to engage in something. Because the one thing that I did notice is that they talk about being young when they got involved in these relationships. And they didn't have anybody who was coming in like you just said, when you went over to your daughter's house. I think I don't know whether you have a home or what your living situation is, but apparently you've lived places and you looked at the baseboards and said, you know what, guys, you know what you need to do? You need to hit the baseboards because this is my experience as a person who's had houses. This is something you need to do. And for me, it would make more sense if you had somebody, especially in these types of institutions, who stepped in and said, "Hey, in my experience, bro, pull Cody aside. Don't get married on your wife's birthday, dummy. That's not what we're gonna do. That's gonna create all kinds of problems for years." And the crazy part is, even though I don't think it's fair, I don't think it's right. Cody, what do you say all the time? You need to be, uh, you recognize your culpability in this. He should recognize his culpability in proposing to get married on Mary's birthday. You hold responsibility to that.
Mm-hmm.
But you recognize that she's going to get blamed because Mary's not going to hold you accountable for the stuff that you do. She's going to hold Janelle accountable, and that's going to
Mm-hmm.
cause discord in your house.
Mm-hmm.
So, as a person who is involved, it would have really helped them. I think that if they're going to participate in this, I don't recommend it. But if you're going to participate in this, it would really help if you had somebody to mentor you through
Mm-hmm.
a lot of these, even the smallest things that you'll encounter.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause that's one of the things I noticed. They never had anybody who came to them. I mean, here and there, they'd be like, "Oh, my mom said this," or when Janelle and Cody got married, Mary's mother said, "No, don't go sit in the hotel by yourself because that always ends bad, usually with a shower."
Yeah.
And they find you 2 days later. So no, you don't need to go by yourself. Come to my house, or you're just gonna sit there and eat ice cream the whole time, running up the movie bill.
Yeah.
Right, between Kleenex and ice cream, you don't wind up blowing your budget. So come on over to the house, and that was a good advice. But I
Yeah.
don't see a lot of
I
that.
feel like Cody's mom and Janelle's mom were instrumental in Cody's development in the first 10 years. Definitely in the first 5, but at least, I think probably up to the first 10 years, all the way up to about the Robin time. It's mentioned many times in the book where it's sort of like it was either Janelle's mom or Cody's mom that kind of took Cody aside and said, "Okay, let's think
Right.
about this
Don't do that.
again. Yeah, we got to think outside yourself. Let's see, that they admitted that he had zero idea. And it is true he wasn't raised in the faith, so he didn't see it growing up. But he also admitted that they don't teach it in the church, how to work through difficult times and here are the problems you're going to encounter. Instead, they project it as an amazing thing that everybody needs to do because they want to keep this faith in this church growing. And in order to do that, they have to sell it to everybody to keep it going. I don't think they need to sell too hard to the men. I think what they need to do is really educate the men and pull them aside and say, here's the problem you're going to have. Here's the problem you're going to have. Here's the problem you're going to have. I get you have to sell it to the women because how many people want to do this? I don't understand. Only the ones that have been indoctrinated, basically. And people like Janelle, who are just crazy and amazing and sweet and just feels like, well, I have lots of love to give and it's fine. And I get it. Janelle's a different person. She's an independent soul. She was happy to go to work, to be away from mom. It's kind of that same. She had the separation from the family, the wives and Cody for 40 hours a week. And I think she always had that vision that that's how it was going to be for her. That's where she found her value and her joy. So for her, it worked. One of the few people, I think, one of the few females later in life that would choose this, as opposed to, I think most of them are younger and grow up in it. Oh, goodness, yes.
But again, I think Janelle was more suited for polygamy because she has the better, more of a foothold in who she is and what she needs and how she can deal with, other people coming into the family. Big shout out to Scarlett down in Super Chat. Thank you so much.
Hey, Scarlett. And you're going to leave too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scarlett, Jennifer.
Yeah, thank you. What is this? I don't know if you guys already talked about it, but Janelle mentioned on the show that Meri and Cody would always do PDA in front of her until they decided to keep displays of affection private. I think they decided to keep displays of affection. Thank you, Anja. I think that's a good point. When they talk about the displays of affection, it occurs to me, especially by the way that Meri talks about it in the book, that they didn't decide to cut down on the PDAs until Christine came into the family, and Christine was a sexual rival for Cody's attention to Meri. because she was more than willing to have the PDAs and claw on Cody because, like I said from the beginning, I think that when Janelle came into the family, she was the plus one. So Mary was essentially treating her marriage the same way she was doing her marriage way back when Janelle used to just hang out with her. You know, she was just treating it the same way. And then when all of a sudden Christine comes in and she's a Miss Bubbly, and Cody's like, okay, Bubbly, I like Bubbly. And then all of a sudden Mary's like, well, he's looking at her funny. And Christine wanted a lot like Mary, had an idealized version of what marriage was going to be like. So she wants the romance. She wants the attention. She wants the affection. She wants her husband to want her openly and honestly. Like, she wants a lot of that stuff that Mary saw as, I think, challenging, and that was the seeds for jealousy. So therefore, I think that's when the whole conversation about we don't need to be doing this in front of each other. This is ridiculous. And I think that's where a lot of that came in.
I wonder which one is really worse, too, if you had to compare it. Is it worse that your husband and your new sister wife wants to have their wedding on your birthday? Or is it worse that you're now into this relationship and the first wife and your husband are all lovey-dovey, touchy, kissing in front of you, holding hands on the couch while you're sitting at the other end of the couch by yourself, eating your popcorn for years until Christine came? Like, I'm like, if we're going to weigh the two, I'd be like, go ahead, get married on my birthday.
Right. And I think that's like to be in a situation where, and this is where it gets kind of sad to me, because even when, like, later on, when Mary was going through the panorama, I don't know if we can say the other P word on here without getting flagged, but when we were going through the panorama and everybody was isolated and Mary was in the house by herself, that was one of the saddest things ever. Like, watch it, to sit there and watch somebody whom you want to have a relationship with, you know, holding hands, you know, look, eye gazing, hugged up, booed up, and like you said, you sit on the end of the couch eating your little bit of snack, staring at them like, I hope you guys are having fun because this is horrible. Like that just seems like a slow burn, Helen.
Yeah.
YouTube is my time machine. What's up, Blair? Is that the propaganda of it all? Yeah, but it's. Yeah, I think that it's. I think that this is, and again, I think that this is one of the things that's built into the system, where there are cruelties that are inherent to this that you would have to get around. And then, like, even with Cody and how he treated the ladies, you know, I want to say it's the lack of mentorship with some of these relationships which caused him to overlook the fact that you don't get married on your wife's birthday, or you make plans on your wife's birthday. But this actually feels like something that you would learn even just from being in a basic relationship.
Yes.
Like in grade school, middle school, like how do you deal with your girlfriend? You know?
Yeah.
Well, if it's her birthday, I'm gonna call the fellas and get some pickup games at the playground on her birthday. She'll like that. No, she won't.
Right.
I bet you she won't.
Yeah. You know?
No,
they didn't learn any of that. I'm surprised they didn't even learn it just from being in a large family too. They're like, yeah, I'm going to go do this on this day, but it's so-and-so's birthday. That's like, oh, well, no, birthdays are, well, in the Brown family, birthdays are very important.
Well, yeah, now apparently. Before, I guess Cody didn't care. And it was funny too, because Cody said that before. He said he had girlfriends and he had girls. Oh, why am I holding her hand? I don't even really like her. You know, he had apparently he had women that he was talking to. All right, Scarlett, you have a good night. But so you have that. But then there's a point where Janelle gets pregnant. And I thought that the three of them were together before anybody got pregnant. But apparently, according to the book, Janelle gets pregnant first. She had Logan first. And while she's pregnant, Cody proposes to Christine. And that is insane. And then once again, Mary's in her feelings and feeling insecure because that seems to be the recurring theme. She's insecure about the relationship between Janelle and Cody. She's insecure about the relationship between Christine and Cody. Then
Mhm.
Janelle gets married or Janelle gets pregnant and she's insecure about her placement in the family because she's not bringing in kids and they've been trying for 5 years. So there's a
Mhm.
question there. And that's one of the hard things about this type of relationship as well, because so much emphasis is placed on the value of having children as opposed to like you know having that bond with your significant other. If anything, like I dare to say that it comes off to me that the value of having children is more important than your connection to your spouse
Yeah.
and making sure that your spouse is being taken care
It
of.
has to be because there's no way you can be that emotionally connected to that many women. So it has to be once you accept this
Hmm.
principle, you have to go into it with the notion and of the concept of growing the church and having as many children as possible, as many wives or at least 3 wives, and then as many children as possible is your main focus. And in order to do
Hmm.
that, like how many women are really going to be in polygamy? You have to take on wives that you're just not that interested in. Like it literally has to come down
Right.
to would I sleep with this person? And do I think they'll get along with the other wives? All right, another wife. Here we go. And I think that was his attitude until he met Robin. I
Yeah,
think
and
Robin
that's one
changed
of the
it.
sad things to. Yeah, because Robin becomes the sexual dynamo or the sexual interest or sexual focus
Mhm.
of his attention, and it's sad in a lot of ways because I I don't want to diminish Mary and Cody's relationship, but there is a part of me that recognizes that when you want to do something, like for instance, if you're a person you say I want to have the menage threesome thing, right? Menage a trois.
Mhm. Mhm.
You have to find somebody who is willing to do that. Like that's the first part. Like you have to get the one before you can get the two. So you have to find somebody who is willing to do it. And in order for you to find the person who is willing to do it, in some cases, you're willing to shatter your expectations and lower your standards in order for you to achieve the one goal that you're willing to have. So no shot on Mary. I really don't want this to be a shot on Mary, but
Mhm.
it also occurred to me that part of Cody's attraction to Mary very well may have been the reality that she was open to having, engaging in a polygamous style lifestyle, and by him being able to date her, he would be able to participate in that. And of the women who are available at the time, maybe Mary was the best choice, but it wasn't necessarily the person that he would have chosen. If you would have told him you can only have one, the question is, would Mary have been the one? That
Mhm.
you forget polygamy, you're going to get married and you're going to be a monogamous. The one you choose is the one you're stuck with. Would he have done it? And I don't know. And that's the weird thing about it. I mean, Cody and Mary know, but I don't. I'm just asking the question.
That's a good question. I don't know either
You know.
because they seem like they were very much in love, but I just think that's because she was the first one that was there when
Hmm.
he got married and he was young and lustful and excited about having this woman by his side and a companion and whatnot. And she fit the bill, but they were like oil and water in a lot of ways. So I can't imagine that she would have been number one. I wonder if the teenage girl would have been his choice if he was going to
Right,
go into
right.
monogamy.
And I
Unless, of
and I
course,
would,
he met, Robin back then, but that he hadn't met her until later on.
well, if you had met Robin back then, she still would have been in like grade school or something. So that would have been a little
That's true.
creepy. Way creepy. But we're not like the rest of those polygamists. You're like, what? Yeah, you are.
Uh-huh.
Even call them Warren Jeffs. Yeah, don't forget to hit that thumbs up. Hit the thumbs up. Thank you, MJC. Um, but yeah, I think that is the I would think so. Um, cool Cool doggy, Rochelle J. I think that's part of it. Like it's just a realization of where they were in their relationships. You
Mm-hmm.
know, because Mary, like I said, I feel for her situation. And part of me, like this is a weird place for me because part of me is with Lane Howe, who said that I don't really feel bad for them because they chose this, and I'm kind of in that same thing. My whole position though, with the choice aspect, the only thing that really holds me back from really just saying, "Well, the hell with it. That's what you chose to do. You knew what it was when you did it." Is there's so much misinformation and propaganda that these young folks are put through while they're growing up in these households and within this faith, and there's so much misinformation is given to
Mm-hmm.
them about these types of relationships that they don't really have the springboard to make a sound decision with regard to, is this really for me? Maybe I shouldn't be trying to do this. Maybe this won't work. And just the fact that if it doesn't work or you don't want to do it, it's okay. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the one thing that I would always want to stress them. Like, if you realize that this isn't for you, this isn't for everybody. This
Yeah.
is not for everybody. Not everybody can pull this off. So if you don't think you can do it, this is not something that this isn't a club. Like this isn't a marriage club. Like you join like a chess club for like a week and decided you don't like chess, you like checkers, and you go play something else. This is
Mm-hmm.
a marriage. Like this is serious, and especially as you start to bring children into the situation, or
Yeah.
as in Mary's case, you can't bring children into the situation, and it
Yeah.
causes complications.
I
You
think
know,
Christine was the first one who really understood when she came into the family that it was going to be difficult and the different dynamics, and that being because she came
Mhm.
into it right away saying, I am getting my own home. I am not moving
Right,
in with you
right,
guys. I'm like, so that the wisdom in that decision, and for her to say, I need to be separate right now. And I think their home was a trailer at the time too. So I don't believe it was
right.
very large. Um, and I think that probably saved their marriage because had the three wives all gone into that trailer, if it happened to have three bedrooms, I'm not sure. I'm imagining it did since it appeared as if it was an option. I guess another option could have been moving. But for her to say, I'm going to move someplace else, I think it probably saved the marriage because not only did it allow Christine to start to develop a relationship with Cody, which admittedly they didn't have when they first got married on both of their parts. They realized we fell in love eventually. And I think it really happened after Aspen was born that they really started to fall in love with each other. And he saw her as a mom and a great mom at that. But then it also gave Janelle permission when it was too much for her to say, okay, I'm not walking away from all of this, but I too am getting my own place. And
Right, right,
it's getting away from Meri. She probably thought, well, shoot, I've been dealing with Meri this whole time.
right,
You get
right.
along with her. I should go somewhere else. You should be staying here. Wait a minute.
What am I
Um,
doing?
yeah, but I think that one move that Christine did to say, I really feel like I need to have my own home to really get to know Cody really well was wisdom that really kept their marriage, his to Janelle and Christine from exploding and just blowing up. Because I think Meri would have stuck around no matter what. But I do believe
Right.
that the other two might have just said this is too much. Yeah, we're gonna move on. So yeah, that surprised me. Until I read the book, I didn't know that Christine got her own place right after they got married. I thought they were always all together, and I always heard about them being in a trailer with thin walls that wasn't ideal. That I remember Janelle
Right,
talking about
right.
it. The three of them being, or she just said we all lived. I think in the show when she referenced it, and my impression was they got married and they all lived in the same 3-bedroom trailer that had paper thin walls. But initially that wasn't the case. Christine did get her own place. So I was shocked. I don't know if you knew that ahead of time, but I did not know that until I read the book.
No, no. Well, because big shout out to Teresa Skinner, $1.99 super chat. Thank you so much for joining the chat and the insight. Thank you, Teresa. Teresa Skinner in the house. What's up? What's up?
Mm-hmm.
She's famous. Teresa's famous. Um, the thing is that I think that there is a point where moving into your own place helps. I've criticized historically Robin for moving into her own place,
Mm-hmm.
especially with the family struggling.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the part of the difficulty, and even with Robin coming into the family, I'll address that issue. But part of the difficulty is when Cody brings these women into the family is already struggling, and there's serious problems with the family as is.
Mm-hmm.
And Cody is not addressing, and I'm blaming, or at least I'm holding Cody accountable for this because he's
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be the patriarch and the leader. And by his definition, I define people by how they define themselves. Cody holds himself as the leader, and he said that he's bringing these people into the family while the family is falling apart, while the family is struggling, and he's not addressing the issues. Like as Mary describes later on in the chapter, she says that when there's a problem in the family, I like to talk about the problems and the issues, and I like to get closure on those issues. Whereas Cody just likes to, talk through it one time, and then, when he's done, and he gets up and he walks off, and he expects it to be settled and finished, and nobody to ever speak of it again. And those problems, by ignoring those problems, you're never really solving those problems, and it only opens the door for bigger problems. And when he even talked about it in season 18 when he was sitting on the couch with his friends. I'll give a shout out to Tanya Johnson. Super chat. Thank you so much with the super sticker.
Thanks, Tanya.
But when Cody was sitting there talking to his friends, he had talked about how one of the benefits of having multiple wives was that he could sit there and have a conversation with one, and if he has a disagreement, he could pack his stuff and go over to another wife's house and not have to deal with any of those problems, basically leaving her to deal with those problems by herself. Mm-hmm. And when you're a couple, leaving one of the people to deal with the problems is never a good idea because it'll never come out to your benefit at all. It's just, and one person is going to feel the weight of the relationship. They're going to feel like they're carrying a majority of the relationship. And I think that that's a lot of the contention that they were having with these couplings, because each one of these women felt like they were carrying the bulk of their marriage on their backs. And Cody was just kind of bouncing between all of them. So whereas they were putting in 80%, Cody's putting in his 20%. And he's saying, well, I don't understand because I'm putting in just as much as you guys. It's just that Cody's contribution is divided amongst 3 different people. Yeah. You know what I mean? As opposed to them saying, like, I'm trying to make 100% out of this, and I got to make up for where you're deficient, and you're not showing up to my house. You're not showing up for me. You're not here for me. Yeah. And I think that that's one of the struggles that even Meri had.
I think I was very hard. I still stand by it. It was very hard on Robin as well for getting her own house too. The difference there, though, is that there weren't all these, like with Robin, she was trying to blend a family.
Right.
So she came with 3 kids already and was very critical of people not just opening their arms and loving on her and welcoming her and constantly calling her and asking her if she's okay and did she want to come over. She took no responsibility for that whatsoever. And she chose to live separate as opposed to living with Janelle. Well, just think how quickly those kids would have gotten acclimated if they would have been in there. And I think they all knew it was a short-term idea. It wasn't like she was permanently going to be in the basement of Janelle's place or the upstairs or however it was going to work out. It was Janelle just saying, listen, I have the upstairs and downstairs. You can take one. I'll take the other if you want to move in here. And she didn't do it. So that's the only difference that would be my critique with that situation, because it caught me by surprise when I first read it in the book that Christine did that. I'm like, oh, I've come down really hard on Robin for doing exactly what Christine did.
Well, I take your exception and I will add to it. Okay. I think that there's a subtle difference between you, just like there being discord in the family, and then you coming into the family to kind of cure the discord, and versus in Robin's case, the money, in my perspective, money and finances can cause all kinds of problems. And the family was financially struggling already. So for you to come into the family, you have to be willing to make those sacrifices and meet those sacrifices where they are in order for you to come into the family. So if they're saying, hey, why don't you move in? It's not, I want you to move in. I want to give up half my house just because I'm a crazy person. Janelle
Right.
was very possibly thinking, I need to give up half my house because frankly, we can't afford to have you living
Right.
around the corner unless you're going to pay for it. And
Mhm.
Robin wasn't paying for it,
Yeah.
So I like from that respect, I think that there's a distinct difference. Like, and we just have to acknowledge that there is a difference between like, okay,
Yeah.
I want to try to enjoy my marriage versus I'm trying to blend these. Like you said, you're trying to blend the families, and there's a point that we'll get to where it talks about Robin coming into the family. Let's matter of fact, let's jump right to that.
Okay.
Where Mary gives a description of Robin coming into the family. Now, keep in mind, is we had talked about the whole issue of Mary and her perception of the people coming into the family. There's a lot of time where Mary is saying she's very jealous of these women coming into the family. That she's upset that they're coming in. She was upset when Janelle showed up. She was upset when Janelle got pregnant. She was upset that Christine came in, and she was upset that Christine got pregnant. And she got pregnant, and everything seemed to be going well. She thought it was going to open up the floodgates. She was going to have baby after baby after baby. She didn't. And these other two ladies kept having children, which created more complications in their relationships. But after 20 years of marriage, Mary says that she reached a point where she felt like the family was on cruise control. Everything was going well. After 16 years and 13 kids, Cody, Janelle, Christine, and I had figured out who we were as a family and how to make things work. Then guess what happened? Enter Robin, aka Crab Rouse. Crab Rouse comes through, and this upsets the entire apple cart.
Yeah.
It changes the entire dynamic of the family. Like she even goes on to say, one of the funniest things to me was she even goes on to say, we were a well-oiled unit, and we could see this reflected in our children's happiness. You take that into account that your kids are so happy, and the way your family is turning out, everything is going great. At this time, they're all living in Lehigh. The family is working the way the family is working, and it's very reflective of something that Christine said. I don't want to add to the family because I like the way the family is going. But Mary is saying the same thing. Then she's instrumental in bringing Robin into the family.
Yeah.
Before we get into it, did you want to say anything about it?
I think this is, and actually looking at the sentence right before that stuck out to me as well, where she said, I think the fact that Janelle and I were both happy in our professions and Christine seemed to be happy and doing a great job at home really added to the general happy attitude in the home. She's pointing out right here the thing that Robin expressed that she was concerned about. What is your value to this family? What are you contributing to this family? And it took them a long time to work through it and work through how to do things and how not to step on each other's feet and how do you like the dishes put and how do you like the laundry done. And they got to a point that they all understood each other, whether they were friends or not at that point. Like, it didn't matter. The point was the family was functioning and that the kids were happy. And so this made me sad actually reading that part that you were just talking about, because I thought, wow, like this was the pinnacle of they finally got it all together. Everybody was happy. They each had their own units, but they were all in one home. Everyone had their respective jobs that they loved and enjoyed. Janelle enjoyed what she was doing. Mary loved what she was doing with at-risk youth. Christine loved teaching and being the homemaker. She loves cooking. They all had their role. And then in comes Robin, who didn't cook or clean or work or contribute. Like, I'm trying to figure out, I remember her saying in the one episode too, I hope they can see my value and what I'm contributing. And I'm like,
Right.
what is it? Like, go continue. Like, none of us
What are
can
you
see
doing?
it, but fill us in, because it just blew everything up. And thus, as it said here, it reflected in our children's happiness. That's when they all the animosity started, and then they didn't like Robin, and Robin didn't like them because they weren't respectful enough of her. And the whole house of cards started coming tumbling down right at that point.
Right.
And like you said, when we were talking before we even got on here, where we were saying that, like, well, was it Robin? Was it the show? It has to be both, because there probably wouldn't be a show without Robin, and there wouldn't be Robin without a show. So they really do go hand in hand. Yeah.
She would have took the 4-hour drive down to Utah.
Yeah. For these poor people, there's no way.
Right.
No way.
So she could join the family and struggle. I'm not on struggle time. No, thank you. One of the things that really stuck out to me, and this is the passage that I'll read from Meri, where she talks about the introduction of Robin into the family. She says, around the time that Cody and I were suffering through the low point in our marriage, we decided to take a drive together. It was a particularly good day for us, as we had been working to improve our relationship and the communication between us. We were passing by our friend Reba's house, and we stopped by to say hello. A young woman, Reba's cousin, was outside loading her children into a van in order to drive back home to southern Utah. We started chatting. I felt immediate connection to her. After we drove away, I was instantly struck by one of my popcorn thoughts. Popcorn thought is something that kind of pops into her head, and she would act on it, and maybe it would take hold, maybe it wouldn't. But popcorn thoughts, she-rod defending, that whole thing. This woman is someone who will be in our lives. Of course, that woman was Robin. That paragraph tore me to pieces. Why did it tear me to pieces? Because it wasn't that long ago. It was back in the Cody and Robin chapter where he talks about meeting Robin the day before. So it begged the question for me, as I've always suspected, how much did they plan that? Because isn't it weird? It's just weird to me. And I know I'm a weirdo, so maybe it's just me being weird. It's weird to me that you happen to get into your car and you happen to drive around through town. I don't give a shit how big your town is or how small it is. You just happen to be driving and you happen to turn down one street where Reba lives, and Robin just happens to be coming out at that exact moment to load her kids into the car. Isn't that curious? Isn't that so curious? You know what I mean? And all of a sudden, Meri, according to Meri, she had no idea about Robin and Cody meeting the day before, where she did the look back at the church, to check and see if he, when she was looked to see if she was checking to see if he was checking on her, So it's weird to me that all of a sudden Cody is driving down this street. And it's worse. What makes it worse and hard for me to stomach is the fact that this is a time when you are struggling currently with your present relationship.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not a polygamist, but if as a monogamist, if I'm having a problem with my lady and all of a sudden she's driving and we just happen to run in the, boulder shoulders out there, just happen, out there flowering his, watering his lawn or whatever, no shirt on. What are we doing down this street? And all of a sudden, that's my friend. Got to jump out the car and start talking. And everybody know when people are performing. And I know that I bet you money that Meri recognized that Cody was out there performing. Trying to get that attention. That's like the peacocks. Like you trying to show
that's who he was. The extra sickening thing about this too is you think, okay, so Cody had seen her in church before, so he knew about Robin being there. And clearly her coming up and having to see them and all that, it just seems so clear that either Cody and Robin somehow had connection with each other and were talking before this, or via Reba, connections was happening between all of them at this time. But for this to be the lowest point in the marriage with Meri, and for Cody to know I'm trying to bring in this other wife and to use Meri in the way that he did and manipulate her into thinking it's her idea too, it's sickening. And not only is it a coincidence, but it's horrible in the way that out of all the wives, he took Meri along with him. And probably because he felt like he could manipulate her the most. He could convince her that it was her idea and that she really liked this person more than he did. And he was probably like, oh, you really think so? Oh, you think she'd be a good sister? Oh, the two of you really hit it off. You probably would be great sister wives. Like, oh, what a silly thought. But we shouldn't even talk about that, right? What do you think?
I didn't bring it up. But do you like her? I mean, do you like her? If you like her, then I like her. You know.
Yeah, and they had stayed up all night talking about it. You know, Cody's like, and another thing, just until he broke her. And she said, yeah, I think she would make a good sister wife. All right, we can go to sleep now.
Right. I'll let you get some rest while I go out here and pray. Because he said he went out and fell on his knees and prayed. And the next day he got up and he went and looked for her at the church. And she wasn't there because she went back home. He was like, oh, if I'd known that she was going home, I wouldn't have been a gentleman. I'd have made her stay. And I'd have fed her.
You would have been in our living room that night. Oh, yeah, that was disgusting. What I found interesting with Meri, too, is that Cody's other way of manipulating her. Well, this is part of the way of manipulating her, but I started reflecting as I was reading this when I was going through it. And he knows that Meri likes it when the two of them have a little secret and that nobody else does. Meri finds it very special that she knows something that nobody else knows and that the two of them share this secret. So Robin was the secret at this time and she bought into it hook, line, and sinker. And he was probably giddy with her and saying, this is so silly. I can't believe her. But we can't say anything yet because it might not be anything. It's our little secret, which makes Meri buy into it even more. Yeah, it is. And yeah, I'll talk to her on the side without telling the other wives and I'll do all the work and all that. It's all great until she realized what she had done at the end and that now there's another wife in the family. But the same situation came up with the divorce. I don't believe for a second. I know Meri said it was her idea, but I mean, I think Meri would say Robin was her idea too. And I think we can pretty much all agree it was all Cody's idea. I believe the whole divorce was Cody's idea too. Really Robin's idea via Cody's idea we're going to make Meri think it's her idea because she's the one that's going to have to do it. And it's going to look horrible if we say we did it. So I think that's another way that Cody went and manipulated Meri and started befriending and sweet talking her and getting in her good graces for a while until he could say things to the effect of, gee, those poor kids, they don't have medical insurance. Their dad, he's not great. And it's scary if something were to happen to us, until Meri eventually said, well, I guess what we could do. And then she now says, well, it was my idea, but she was manipulated the whole time. I'm convinced of it. And then also moving to Flagstaff. She had that other property that she liked. She didn't like Coyote Pass at first. She wasn't interested at all in moving to Flagstaff. But Cody knew that she liked, I can't remember the name of it, but he knew she liked the name of that other property. And so he started saying he liked that property too. He probably knew deep down inside, well, Robin likes Coyote Pass. So we're going to end up with Coyote Pass, but I'm going to play the game here because I just have to get Meri on board to say she's willing to move to Flagstaff because there's no way financially we're going to be able to do this without Meri's property. And I've cut her off for the past decade. And so, but I need her money still. So he takes her, he was like kind of like joking with her and giddy with her and leading her on, not terribly leading her on, because she was like, oh, it was such a sad episode, that episode where she's just like begging for his attention during that trip of the two of them together. And he really wasn't giving it to her, but you could tell he was giving her more than he normally does, which is really just riding in the car together. And the fact they spent the night in a hotel room together, albeit in separate beds. But this is just so much more attention than Meri had in the past decade. And for him to be like, I think I like that too. And then she even said to the camera, like, nobody else knows that there's this other property, but that's the one that Cody and I like. So he got her to move to Flagstaff too by covertly making it think it's her idea and starting off with, let's have this little secret that we're not telling anybody yet. It's just our thing. And that just makes me sick because it's his MO, clearly. And those are the 3 times off the top of my head when I read this. I thought of, this has happened before. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. There probably are 5 other ones if you go through the series where he's done the same kind of thing. But it makes me sick to see how he manipulated her.
Yeah, well, because there is a point, like even with the like moving backwards, the Cowdy Pass or the I almost said the name of the place, but the place that she was interested in moving to.
Yeah.
What actually the crazy part is the place that changed her mind about moving to Arizona. And I don't think it was as much the place, because if you recall during that episode when they were doing the tour, he had put his arm around her at that point.
Yeah.
And he love bombed her. And so she was making her decision like, wow, this could be a new start for us. And even when one of the crazy things, because even speaking about it, there was a point where they were sitting there talking on that last episode of season 18 when he was talking to Meri about them breaking up. He said, when you came out here, we moved out here to Arizona, you said that we were going to start all over again. We were going to try and we were going to start. And we went out on that date and everything was everything. And she went out on the date, and then that was the last date she went on, because that was the date they went on while she was still living in Las Vegas, when she was talking about she didn't want to sell her house. But the minute she moved out to Arizona and she put her house on the market and her house was gone, then all of a sudden the date stopped. So there was always that point where he was love bombing her and kind of leading her along. The whole idea of her having that relationship with Robin where they were keeping the secrets, I don't like secrets, period, in relationships, because they always go bad. Maybe because I'm a Gen Xer. Like any sitcom in history, always one of the major premises of any sitcom is the misunderstanding premise, where somebody doesn't have all the information and they make assumptions based on the misunderstanding that they have, or somebody tries to keep a secret and it blows up your relationships. That's why I don't like secrets, maybe. Yeah. But by having that secret, Meri describes in here in the book how having that secret at first was a special thing between her and Cody. She felt like it was unique and it was actually empowering their relationship for them to share this special thing, this special knowledge between the two of them. The sad part is that while she was keeping that secret, Cody was sitting there plotting and planning on getting Robin and spending time with her. And he wasn't focused on like building a relationship with Meri. He was using Meri. And it's just a sad situation. And again, I'm going on record before and said that I'm not like the biggest, like, I'm a Meri fan, diehard Meri fan club person. But I feel for her in this situation because she was, in fact, I think she was manipulated. Yeah. Because if you start off, and she even talks about how she was good friends with Robin. She says in here she was going, I won't read it, but she said that she was going to therapy with Cody, couples therapy with Cody, to try to improve their relationship. And she said there were times that Robin would go to the couples therapy with her and Cody. Yeah. There were times that her and Robin would go to couples therapy together. And then all of a sudden, like you said, when the divorce comes up, oh, my husband, he mistreats the children. I don't like the way it goes. What if something happened to us? I want the kid to have to go back to him. That's why, maybe if I get married or something, that's the only way Cody could adopt him. We get married. I get a divorce because that'll make Cody fall in love with me more. And it's always a thing. Sorry to drag this out, but it's always a thing where she's doing one more thing to try to get Cody's favor.
Yeah.
And that's what it felt like for me watching it.
100%.
That's the one thing. Oh, I'm going to do this because Cody will like it. I'm going to get a divorce because Cody will like it. I'm going to give Cody this new woman because Cody will like me, and that'll be something between us. I'm going to move to Arizona because then Cody's going to start paying attention to me. So she's always chasing after this vapid relationship where no matter how much she poured into it, she was never going to get anything from it because you were never going to fill his love tank because his love tank is bottomless as far as she was concerned.
And I think the book that she will write someday will have a lot more examples in it because she made reference to that in season 18, that all the things that he made me keep quiet and promise and all these covert things. There was a line, I should find it, but she said she insinuated that she has done so much that nobody knows about and kept so many secrets for Cody that he obviously, again, was like, this is just between us. Don't tell anybody. This is just between us. Don't tell everybody. I think someday when that Meri book comes out, we're going to read them all. And I hope it's not too long after the Sister Wives ends. Like, I hope she has it like she's writing it now so that it can go to the publisher the day they say, okay, we're canceling the show.
Meri, if you're watching this, girl, you need to take Jenny's advice. Start writing that book now.
Yes.
So when this within the next season or 2 seasons, you can start releasing your story. Because if you don't, keep that ring issue in mind. Because what happened with that ring, where somebody else came out and told your story, somebody else is going to come along and tell you a story for you. So you need to come out with your truth and tell your truth. Stop hiding. Stop hiding from the world. You don't owe him anything. Not as far as that kind of protection. If he didn't look out for you and he's not trying to protect you, you do not have to protect him. You know what I mean? Give him as good as you get. And that's the sad part about like the whole, like looking at the relationship between her and Robin. Again, this is from the outside. I'm not with them. I don't hang out with them. I don't know them personally. It just seems to me that the relationship was very contrived on Robin's part because Meri was more or less a means to an end. By hanging out with her, she could get closer to Cody. She could get closer to the thing that she wanted. Meri was a bridge to Cody. And then once she crossed that bridge, she no longer needed that bridge. And Meri, unfortunately, at least it feels like watching the show that she outlived her usefulness as far as the family was concerned. And once they were done with her, they were done with her. And the sadder part for me was like, even in later season 17, as you're watching it, it got to a point where Meri was unsure who she was. Because there was one point where Cody was like, he was yelling at her because she's too aggressive and this is why I don't like you because you get in everybody's face and you're too bossy and I can't be with you because you're a toxic person and you make everybody feel terrible and this is why I can't be with you. Then when Christine leaves the family, hey, Meri, you got something to say? You need to cuss her ass out. I need that toxicity. Where's that toxicity at? When Janelle was leaving, they were at the house, and Janelle came over to Meri's house to show him the plans because that's what Cody said. Oh, we're going to move, bring it up to 5 lots. Remember 5 lots? Well, I want to show you the plans of my house. Well, cuss her ass out. Cuss her ass out, Meri. Let's go. Get it. And he kept looking to Meri to be that enforcer. And when she wouldn't be that enforcer anymore, all of a sudden, she wasn't doing everything she needed to do to make the relationship work. And it's unfortunate. Like it's a sad situation. It's a sad situation.
Yeah, it is. What did you think? What kind of struck me as I was reading this too. First of all, there's a whole bunch about Meri wanting to be Robin's friend, the whole friend thing, and that too, which I guess I don't want to beat a dead horse because we really talked about that a lot at the beginning of the episode. But then it goes on to Robin, this is, as we were talking about, Mary's realization of, well, shoot, what did I do? I loved having Robin at first because we were all kind of friends together and I would hang with her and that. But now she's taken Cody away and I feel like I'm lonely again. And so I'm not here. So she points out that Robin was getting these weekends because she lived further away. And I went back in the previous chapters to look, and I noticed that Christine got engaged the same weekend as her courting began. So her courtship lasted a weekend. And then all of a sudden, Cody went ahead and he proposed to her. All right. And then as we know, Christine pushed for the wedding. So the whole thing went really fast. But like really Cody's fault to begin with, because he asked to court her. And like within 2 days, he asked to marry her. Meri, it said she started her courtship the first weekend of December. And then she was engaged by December 25th. So that was closer to 2.5, 3 weeks, depending on how it fell. Janelle said she started courting Cody, had one date, and they got engaged. And that was it. So now we have Robin here, who Cody asked her dad to court her, and he says no. He's like, yeah, I'm not so sure. No kisses, no Valentines, no hearts, no cards, no nothing like that. But you can get to know her a little bit better. Well, get to know her a little bit better translated essentially into courting, because that's when she wrote in the book that the wives started driving up with Cody on the weekends because they had to get to know her. And if it wasn't one of the wives, because that became impractical after a while, which I didn't completely understand because there are 3 of them. So it's only like once a month, but still, all right. So then there would be groups of kids that would come and with Cody and stay there. So that lasted for a while. As much digging and searching as I did, I cannot find any parameters or holidays or any dates to see when that happened. But eventually Robin decided that she wanted to officially start the courtship, called her dad. The dad called Cody and gave him permission to court. And it just so happened that Robin was down that weekend visiting the Brown family. So he proposed on September 26th, the only date that we have. So this is and then after the proposal, it was like 7 months before they got married. The number of times that this man spent with Robin on weekends, because she eventually moved to a house, because as we mentioned before, denied the offer from Janelle, I'm sure to Janelle's chagrin. How are we going to pay for this? I'm sure Cody kept saying the show, don't worry. That's the only way he could justify it to her, because he admitted himself he was getting ready to sell his own car because he couldn't afford to be engaged to another woman. They had no money. He was making no money. He wasn't selling anything. He was, nothing was going well for their family. And yet we are now going to have another house and 4 additional mouths to feed. I just found it amazing how much time he took away. I get how Meri felt lonely during this time, because she's like, okay, I finally have my buddy. She's my gal. She's my best friend. And I no longer see her because she doesn't even live here and she's not around very much. And she's got 3 kids keeping her occupied, which I can't really relate to because I only have one who's about 13, 14, 15 at the time. And now these whole weekends, her husband is gone too. So that's one less weekend. I just found the amount of time given to Robin was incredible. And then if we want to go one step further, she gets an 11-day honeymoon on top of it. And Christine, after the honeymoon, agreed that she got a little bit more than the even rotation of days because they're newlyweds and they're just getting to know each other. I'm like, when you guys came into the relationship, it was like a weekend. And somehow y'all didn't go on an 11-day honeymoon to be away. But she had a significant, when you put it all together, a significant amount of alone time with Cody. And it kind of struck me. This is the first time reading through it. I kind of put it all together and looked and went, wow, this is really imbalanced. And yet, Robin was constantly complaining she didn't get enough time.
Right. Oh, big shout out to Vega Blue down there in our super chat. Thank you so much. I think Cody used Meri to bully the other wives. Yeah, that's accurate. Very true. Very true. She was the bouncer. But sorry about that. I hit the wrong button. But I think that when you look at it, the dad had insisted that they get to know each other. That was the whole thing. And by them getting to know each other at that point, because they weren't courting, they couldn't be alone with each other. So they used the wives and they used the kids so that they could get together. And that's when they were going up. What most likely happened, she just got tired of hosting everybody at the house. And she wanted to have her time. So she said she wanted to open it up to courting. And once she did that, then Cody could go up and spend time with her, which is a little weird to me, because if you're in one of these, I'm not trying to set guidelines for anybody's religion or faith, but it's just my understanding of the guidelines that they put forward. It would be weird to me that you have a man coming over to a single woman's house and spending weekends at her house, because I guess I keep throwing Seeking Sister Wives. There was an episode in or at least a storyline in Seeking Sister Wives where Nick, the guy who's dating, like, he has 3 wives and he's supposed to be dating this young lady named Jasmine, and he invites her over for a long weekend. And I had this conversation with my lady, and I was like, look, if a man invites you, if y'all don't know, if a man invites you for a long weekend, that long weekend involves some friction. Okay, it will be some friction involved. That's the plan. That's what a long weekend is. Like, nobody is inviting you to their house or to come over to go on vacation with you for a long weekend, and they plan on just holding your hand and watching movies.
Yeah.
Okay. There's some things that's happening. So in my mind, if you're driving, you're driving 3 hours to go see this woman, and you're sitting in the house by yourself, you guys are, in the house. You're saying that you're not kissing. They kissed when they sealed for the marriage or whatever. They got engaged. Part of the reason why they rush into go from courting to marriage right away is because they don't want to break the bonds of chastity or whatever. So he was sitting in the house. They kissing and they hugging, and you know how it go. Like, you start off like, we're not going to do nothing. We just going to sit here. We're going to hold hands. We're going to talk. We might kiss and canoodle a little bit. And if you start getting hot and heavy, one thing leads to another. You're adults. Boom, boom. Next thing you know, as they say back in the day, cigarettes getting smoked. So it's just a weird situation. And I know maybe it's the vulgarity of what I'm saying because I'm of the world, but I'm just saying it. To me, I would be like, yeah, some stuff is going on. Sonia House, what's up, Sonia? How you doing? $49 $20 says if the show didn't develop and was canceled, Sabin would have been gone. I 100% agree.
Yeah,
Sonia,
I'm not taking that bet.
we absolutely, both Jay and I absolutely. Thank you so much for the super chat, by the way. Thank you so much. But we absolutely had said the same thing. Had there not been a show, there would not have been a marriage. Had there not been a show, Robin's ass, in my opinion,
Yes,
Robin wouldn't have driven 3 hours, 2 weekends in a row just to go sit in a church when she got a church down the street. She wouldn't have did it. I don't think she would have drove down there. I think she fully knew that they were having they were doing it. These are small communities. You know when somebody going to be on TV.
Yeah.
And they knew that they were farming a TV show. So she goes down there to meet the guy. She just happens to sit behind the guy who happens to be on the TV show after she happens to drive down 3 hours, and she just happens to be at the same church, same location at the same service time. Then she just happens to go, walk in front of him, give him the look back to make sure, she popping hips to make sure that he noticing her. And then he happens to be driving down the street and happens to see her on the lawn, and then she happens to go back, and then she happens to come back for a party, and they happen to meet again and dance all night and talk all night.
There's a lot of happenings going on.
There's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. So I think
I
that
was looking
absolutely
here for
showed-
the line too. You pointed it out when we read through it the last time. And it didn't strike me. And when you mentioned it, I'm like, oh yeah. When Reba was on the phone with Robin saying, hey, you know, they're kind of interested in all of that. There was a line in there that Reba said to the effect of,
There's a
there's
lot
a
of
lot
stuff
of
happening down
promising
here.
things happening in this family,
Right.
yeah. Which, i.e., means these people are going to come into money and you're going to be famous and you're going to be on TV. Now, what do you think about it? Yeah, for sure.
They finna get a show. This is the equivalent of if you know a guy who's about to get drafted into the NBA, NFL, about to get that big time contract, all of a sudden that singing and dancing that he was doing at the talent show in high school is paying off because Epic Records wants to talk to him. Now all of a sudden you need to come down here and get, you know, you need to come down and get his attention. Unless he's inviting you to a Puff Daddy party, in which case stay far away. But it's just, and like you said, one of the sad things is that you can see a lot of what's happening. Like it's right in front of us. And I know we like to pretend, I won't say we, by we I mean they like to pretend that if you cloak it in the shield of polygamy, like you put it in the cloak of polygamy, that all of a sudden everybody gets confused because these relationships are completely different. But to me, as a regular guy, regular Joe, when I look at this, if I saw these same things, I would have said Cody knew who Robin was. He took his girlfriend down, like, you know, Meri, he took his wife, his lady, down that street because he knew that Robin's ass was going to be out there.
Yep.
He's kept that secret between that relationship and all that because this is something that he had plotted and planned the whole time. This was not a mistake. This is not a happenstance thing. That's just me, you know.
No, I completely agree. He had Reba do the dirty work and had Meri believing that it was all her idea.
Right.
It's sad.
Right.
And when you mention also all the times that he went up there, especially after, now he did bring kids up there even after courting. I don't know if he did every time, but I know there were sometimes he did, but he had to because they were the babysitters.
Right.
Couldn't afford babysitters. And he was always whining and dining her. They didn't have 2 nickels to rub together, but you know, they were going out all the time. And, but whether it's when the kids fell asleep at night or whether the kids weren't up there, we are talking about Robin, who's had 3 children. And the first child was born out of wedlock. So this is who we're dealing with. So do we think that this woman who trapped a man into getting married by having sex with him before she got married, where are her values now? Do we really think that after all this time and all these kids, and he's had all these kids and all this life experience, if you will, that the two of them are getting together and being chaste? No, like we're not idiots.
Right.
We're not idiots.
Right. And I think that that's a huge thing, like, because I listen to them talk, and and I have a thing, my big thing, like one of my pet peeves. Story time. One of my pet peeves is I understand that people will lie to me. Please don't insult my intelligence when you do it. And I think that like a lot of the lies or things that I perceive to be as dishonest are insulting to my intelligence. You want me to believe that you had the purest of intentions when you were driving out there 2 hours. Maybe you did. Maybe, and I don't rule that out. Maybe Cody is a better person than I am because I'm just speaking from my perspective. I don't see me driving 3 hours every weekend to see somebody and nothing is going on.
Right.
Like I'm maybe I'm a pig. Like I don't know.
No,
I
that's
just don't
every man
see
I
it.
know.
Yeah. Like every guy I know. I don't know a guy who will be like, yeah, man, I drove that 3 hours,
100%.
son. It was amazing.
100%.
We have the deepest conversations. Like I will drive 3 hours for a deep conversation, but after like the second weekend, come on now.
Yeah. Yes. No. I agree. There's
We've
an
been dating for
expectation.
months.
Yeah.
And like you said, you got kids, I got kids. Like Come on now.
Right. We're going to talk. Sure, we're going to talk, but I got plans first.
Right. We're going to talk. We can talk after that. Like,
After.
come on now. So it's just weird to me. Like, it's just a weird vibe. And then I don't like one of the things that really kind of went full circle for me was that initially when Mary was talking about it, she said, she talked a lot about like the importance of the sister-wife relationship. And one of the key words she used during that time was trust. And I don't see how you can develop or maintain that you deserve to have a certain level of trust with these people if you are participating in a lie. Because in my mind, if you knew, if he met Robin and he had any interest in her, he should have came home and that should have been a conversation and a discussion that they had with the other two wives who weren't present. So when he went out and he met, wow, I saw this young lady, especially if your relationship is open that way. I saw this young lady. I thought she was interesting. She did the booty pop. I was like, got me, hook, line, and sinker. Okay, I need to go home and have a conversation with my wives because this is a possibility that I may pursue. But that's not what he did. He kept it a secret. And apparently, according to the book, Mary didn't even know how much Robin and Cody had already interacted. So my question would be, how do you feel now that you know that the relationship between the two of them was far more extensive than you knew? Because you felt pretty good when you thought that you were tricking Christine and Janelle. But now that you realize that you were also being tricked, how do you feel about it? Now the shoe's on the other foot. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I don't know. That's going to be in the book too.
Yeah. I found out. I screamed to the heavens. Flying Johnson. Yeah, right. Yes, James. They all talk about trust when everyone lies and manipulates each other. It's crazy. It is crazy. And I've held that out for the entire time, and I'll probably talk about it this week because I do plan on releasing a video too. Somebody asked me earlier about releasing some videos. I have some stuff coming up. I'll talk about it at the end, but I have some stuff coming up, and I will release some videos. But specifically, one of the things that I think is important is that if you engage, any relationship should have a level of honesty. That's part of the communication. So if you have a relationship with somebody, you should have open communication, and honesty should be a part of that communication, honest communication. But it is critical. If you plan on adding people to your relationship, it is imperative that you're honest, transparently, ridiculously honest about everything. They need to know everything. You meet somebody at the supermarket, that person smiling in your face for too long, you need to go home and tell. And I even said that to some of my buddies back in the day, like stuff would happen or, they run into somebody. And I would tell them, like, go home and tell your wife. Go home and tell your girlfriend. Why would you tell her? They ain't got nothing to do. You tell her because if she finds out from somebody else, it's going to be problems. It's going to be a problem. And sometimes, not saying that people do this on purpose, but some people do this on purpose. They will go home and realize that you didn't tell, and they will make it a point to tell your person, something that they don't know to create a problem in your relationship. They'll mess your relationship up because you'll be sitting there arguing about something you didn't do, but now it looks like you're totally involved with something because you didn't come home and say something. You kept that secret because I don't want to tell. I want to upset her. Well, is she calm now? She cutting the backs out your seats. Is she calm now? She's bolting all the windows out the car. Does she look calm to you?
That's absolutely true. Honesty was not at the forefront of this. Communication in general. We can just couch it all in communication. Communication was absolutely horrible in this family. The things that Meri learned when she went to therapy after 20 years of marriage just blew my mind, that I was like, yeah.
Right.
I'm like, these are new
20
things.
years.
You're 20 years in, and this therapist is just pointing this out to you now.
Who are you working with?
Exactly.
Very funny, Peggy. Robin was going to kill these pencils.
She was.
You know, it is. I will say this. I don't want to belabor the point with the whole cheating thing, but I will say this. It's funny to me, and I've always held this, that people will accuse you of things that they themselves are guilty of. A lot of times, people see things that are in their wheelhouse. So it's funny to me that when his two sons, Garrison and Gabe, had the girlfriends during the panorama,
Mhm.
and they were kept going over there. He said, "I don't want somebody going over there wetting their pencils and doing all this." And he did the whole pencil speech about these
Mhm.
young ladies, which would have been like if I was a father, me and Cody, we having a conversation. You don't put that on my child.
Mhm.
But he said that whole thing about these young men going over to see their girlfriends. So why are you saying that? Because that's what you were doing. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? And that's a position I would take.
Mhm.
You're saying that you're putting that on these young men because
Mhm.
when you were in the same or similar situation, that's what your ass was doing. You were down there, hitting that pencil box. I
Mhm.
got 3 hours to go, and it killed me too. Like, I'm sorry, I don't want to belabor it too much, but when he
In
went,
the I just like the phrase "in the pencil box." It's
yeah,
great.
right, that pencil box, yeah, but but when he went to her house. I remember they showed it on the show. He came in, he was happy as hell, skipping around the house, packing his bags up, having the kids,
Mhm.
shuttle stuff down to him. And then he ran out of the house, kissed his wife goodbye, jumped in the car, and drove 3 damn hours straight. Because he was so excited about this relationship. You tell me that guy is not doing stuff? Come on.
Mhm.
Come on.
Mhm. 100%. What did
You
you
know what I
think
mean?
about the point after Mary began therapy and she started going with Cody and Robin and then some with just Robin? She said, um,
Mm-hmm.
I'll just go
Weird.
through some of this. She could see how happy Robin and Cody were together, and so that bothered her. Her relationship, they had been married for 20 years, so their relationship was obviously in a very different stage at this point. Okay. So, um, and they were in a tough spot on top of it. She said, it was easy for me to put the blame on Robin. In my head, I was sure that Cody wouldn't be treating me so unfairly if it wasn't for her presence in our lives.
All right.
Cody was my husband, so I couldn't blame him, and I surely couldn't be at fault. So in my mind, the obvious answer was Robin. I couldn't have been more wrong. Um, I wondered if that was just like a peek behind the curtain, just a slight peek behind the curtain, and then like, oh, but no, 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 no. That's not how it was. I wonder if that was her opportunity to kind of say, I think Robin is part of this problem, but there's no way I'm going to write that in the book because we certainly haven't
Right.
discussed that in therapy or said that to each other's faces. And those are one of those thoughts that I have now learned in therapy I'm supposed to keep in my mind and not share
Right.
with people. But I wonder if this book, if that was just sort of her way of saying, like, I just wonder how much that little paragraph, how much honesty was in it. If it's like a true honesty, or if she was just, because then she throws at the end, I couldn't have been more wrong. I'm like, well, I don't know about that.
Right. Right.
I mean, I could really argue with you that you're spot on actually in that. So I was just wondering what you took out of that. Did you think that she was trying to throw a little dig at Robin or give a peek behind the curtain of what she was truly thinking, or if she really felt like, oh, I feel terrible that I had these bad thoughts for this period of time, and I learned through therapy that it's not her fault at all.
Right. Right. Well, first, passing for normal did our super chat with wet pencil.
Hi, passing for
That's
normal. That's a wet
awesome.
pencil. It's hysterical.
But I think that the way it worked out, there is a point, and this is what I mean with Mary. This is where it's for me is kind of sad because somebody who struggled with self identity as a young person, I think that Mary was shy and she was reserved and she held a lot of herself back. So she struggled with letting people see who she was. and that kind of establishing her own identity and who she is. And because of her relationship with Cody and in the way she has to barter in that relationship by always trying to have like the transactional point of, I'm going to give you this if you give me this attention. I'm going to give you that if you give me this attention.
Mm-hmm.
She recognizes, I think that Meri recognized, at least in my opinion, Meri recognized that Robin is somebody that Cody prefers. And she is very well, like she feels this way. Like I think she was being honest. Like I blamed Robin and it was Robin's fault. And she felt that. But she also recognizes that if she blames Robin and she tries to hold Robin to account for the damage that was done to her relationships because Robin came into the relationships, then she will create a wedge between her and Cody.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think a lot of what drives her relationships with, and this is the relationships with all the ladies, not just Robin, but with all of them. What drives her relationship with those ladies is her desire to be with Cody. She's with them because she wants to be with Cody. And if it weren't for Cody, like I think she asked a question, you know, Cody wasn't around, would I still have a relationship with these women? My feeling is probably not. If not, no. Like flat out, no. She wouldn't have a relationship with him. And if it wasn't for Cody, like I think she liked the idea of, you know, Robin being kind of a mirror person. Like she reflects back the people that she's around. When she's around Cody, she may have came off to Meri as the female Cody. So now I have the benefit of having two Codys. When I'm not with one, I can be with the other. When Cody's off with one of the other ladies, I can be with the female Cody version of Cody. But then she realized that she's not the female Cody. And she's certainly not your female Cody. Like she's not going to validate you or give you that answer that you're looking for. So it's in a lot of ways like this. I think is the beginning. We're seeing the beginning of the unraveling of Meri.
Yeah,
you know, and that's what makes it like again. This is like I'm not like hey Meri, but it's like wow, that's messed up. Like I think that's messed up. Because it was a lot. Like like even what she said in the beginning. I was so excited to have Robin in the family, and I was so excited to bring her in, and da da da. And then I realized that Cody's going to be with her, and I didn't like it. I realized that she was actually going to be with Cody, and they were actually going to have a relationship, and I didn't want them to do that. You know.
Which is interesting because it seems like then it's a knee-jerk reaction, which is very different from Meri. Because Meri, I mean, although she claims that she has these popcorn thoughts, but the reality is what we know about Meri is Meri can't make a decision to save her life. That she mulls things over and over and over, and you know, as often as they try to like get a decision out of her, she's like, I'm not ready yet. I'm still, but so maybe she changed over time. I don't know because. That seems this getting Robin seems like a knee-jerk reaction. It sounds very Cody-ish in terms of saying, yeah, let's bring her in. And then again, like I said before, maybe she was just manipulated into it all. Maybe it wasn't one of her popcorn thoughts as she claims, you know, or she describes them. And it was more something that she was kind of groomed and led to believe and say. And then is now regretting it, which, as you say, it's very sad. Meri has a lot of very sad. And Mary's, I think I told you this the very first time we did a live. Robin, I have consistently not liked from the beginning of season 1. And Christine and Janelle, I have consistently liked since the beginning of season 1. Every now and then Christine's a little too much, but generally, by and large, I mean, that's just like she's a little over the top and sometimes a little performative. But in terms of just like them as people, always liked both of them all the way through. Meri is the one who I didn't like in the season at all. And again, hadn't read the book until now. So didn't have any of this background information. Didn't like her on the series at all until the very end when my heart started like really breaking for her. And now going back and reading the book, you realize all the things that my heart broke about for her, starting with season 16, 17, and 18, were really happening ever since the very beginning. It just wasn't shown on the show. So she is a very tragic a tragic story. And I'm just so grateful that she has Jen in her life, because I just feel like she wants a friend so bad. I mean, if we had a drinking game where we took a shot every time Meri mentioned the word friend in her chapters,
Right.
we'd be sloshed by the end of the
Right.
life.
Be in the
I mean,
hospital. Yeah.
yes, we would, on an IV,
Yeah.
life support. She
Right.
is desperate for friendships. And now she finally has her one true best buddy, dear friend. And I'm just so happy for that, especially because it came during the time that Robin was really separating herself from her. And it may have even started right around the catfishing thing. I don't know. I know it. I know I saw Jen at the, I don't know if it's a tree planting ceremony or the commitment ceremony, but one of those, I saw Jen sitting amongst the people at the tables out there. So they
Right.
had been friends for a while, to the point that she got invited to this family thing there. And I
Right.
know that the friendship has gotten stronger and stronger and stronger over the years. But yeah, I'm so happy for Meri that she has Jen, because Jen seems so logical and grounded. And she needs that in her life. She's never had logic and grounding around her. I mean, Janelle was really the logical, grounded one, and she never liked Janelle. So she
Right.
really didn't have. It's not Cody. He's all over the place. And her friend in Robin, well, that didn't work out. She seemed like she was manipulating her as well, and she just had a rough go of it. So yeah, I'm happy with how things turned out at the end. So I'm happy for the show, and I'm happy that Robin did come into their relationship and their lives too, because when you look at where they are now, Christine is definitely in the best place she's ever been. She's in love, she's married, she's like living her best life. And Meri is now free from all of that burden that's been on her all these years of the obligation to keep going because of her commitment and her faith and all that. She finally got Cody to admit in public, on camera, I don't want a relationship with you anymore, which is what she needed in her head to release herself from the obligation and the commitment that she made before God to stay in this marriage. And then on top of it, we've got Robin telling her she needs to as well. So she was finally able to break away from that. And Janelle seems to be traveling. Janelle loves to travel and garden, all that. She seems to be living her best life too. And she has finally seen Cody for who he is. She was kind of blinded in love by him and just willing to just give him everything, all her finances, everything. So I'm really happy with when people say, oh, if Robin wasn't there. It's true. I do think if Robin never came, it would be the OG3 and they would still be in Lehigh. I think the kids would have eventually gone through school there. I think they would have graduated from there. It would have been less and less kids in the house. There wouldn't have been a need to move, and they would have all still stayed together. But really, in the long run, is that what's best for everyone?
Well, I think that with the because even with that proposition, I think that the kids would have turned out completely different. Like they had an opportunity by going out and being immersed in a different culture where they were exposed to a lot of different things, and that might have opened up a lot of doorways of opportunity for them.
Yeah.
I think that with regard to Meri, I think Christian had put down Meri had a lot of friends, and according to the show, and I think that there was a point where they said that Meri was, had a lot of people coming over, but it begged the question of loneliness, because the weird thing is, and I see where Christian is with that, but the weird thing about being lonely is that if you're not with the people that you want to be with, and the people that you desire to be around and share your life with, then you can experience loneliness. Like you can be in a room full of people and be by yourself at the same time.
Right.
And I think that with the sad part in Meri's story, or at least, I'm not pity, like, oh, poor Meri, but the part that makes me sad is when you listen to her, as I'm reading through the book, there's a lot of things like the recurrent theme of insecurity. But one of the things that keeps striking me is the sense of loneliness that Meri has. Even in the marriage, even in the family, like where she's supposed to have all these kids and all these people around her who care about her and are down for
Mhm.
her, and that's what makes the sister wife experience so wonderful and magical. She didn't have the connection with the sister wives that she wanted to have.
Yeah.
She said she wanted to have this close knit, close family connection with them, and she didn't have that with any of them.
Mhm.
Even with the one who was like we had talked about earlier, the one who you would think that she was probably closest to having that relationship with, Robin. It seems, or at least comes off to me, as though Robin was using her. So how close are you to somebody who's using you? She wants to be with Cody. Like, I genuinely believe that when Mary got married to Cody, she was in love, head over heels in love with Cody. She loved that man.
Yeah.
And Cody never gave her 100% of himself so that she could, or I won't say he never gave it to her. He maybe gave it to her in the beginning, but as he started to acquire wives and he started to get more responsibilities, they started having children. Mary was diminished and diminished and diminished in his eyes as far as their relationship was concerned, and that hurt her because she desperately wanted that relationship and that connection to work. And
Yeah.
that's why when you hear her saying that, like in season 18, I finally left them, but I didn't want to go because I wanted this commitment to work. I stayed around. I don't feel bad for me because I stayed around. I stayed around because I gave my word and I wanted this commitment to work. She
Mhm.
was lonely. And
Yeah.
even with like I said, with the pandemic stuff, she was in the house by herself and waiting for these people. She was doing everything Cody had asked her to do, and he still never went over. And then Robin, her friend, her best friend, whom she shared her husband with while she's having problems in her marriage. She shared her husband with this woman. When Cody asked her, "Hey, why don't you and the kids go over there and see Mary?" No, no, I don't feel comfortable with that.
Mm.
And that was in one of the episodes. And it's just like, and I think from that respect, like I that's why I feel bad. I feel for Mary's situation because
Yeah.
she, like I said, she was lonely. She was, and that again, this is where we get into like the whole catfishing experience.
Mhm.
And like I said before, like I don't judge her, or I won't negatively judge her or adjudicate that and say that she was wrong. She's a terrible person for trying to seek out somebody who is going to give her something that she was missing in her life.
Mhm.
You know, and that's
Yeah.
where I think like, that's what made her
Yeah.
vulnerable for the catfish.
And she didn't even seek that out. He sought her out. I would feel different if I felt she sought him out, which I've seen a lot of people kind of comment. I think I can't remember what channel it was. Somebody was analyzing her behavior once and said that, she was wrong because she was in a marriage and she sought out this thing. And I'm like, it came to her. That wasn't her intent. She would, because they said she was searching the internet looking for a guy. She wasn't searching the internet looking for a guy. This is, a fake person who does this for a living and catfishes
Right.
people, was an expert at it, knew exactly the type of personality that you need that's going to buy into this type of thing, and then slid into her DMs under the false premise of, I want to invest in my sister wife's closet business and go from
Right.
there, which is really interesting because, somebody pointed out to me recently, which I thought was interesting. I'm like, gosh, I never thought of it that way. I had mentioned that I always thought that it was for investing in her like LuLaRoe stuff, but I found out it was my
Mhm.
sister wife's closet. And then Cody, so she shared with Cody, and he's like, yeah, go ahead and talk with this person and see what the situation is. So they're like, why wouldn't
The setup, yeah.
Cody, who's like, oh, this guy's got millions, I'll talk to him. That's very Cody. My gosh, I never thought of that. That like, this is
Right.
proof that maybe, because there's always that rumor of that Robin was involved on the back end of this and maybe had something to do with it. There's an argument there that maybe Cody had his hand in it too, for him to say, well, yeah,
Right.
go ahead and talk to him and see what comes of it. That doesn't sound very Cody-like. It doesn't. Cody be like, I
Right.
got this. Give me the number. Why did they even contact you? Who are you?
Right.
Let me
Right.
handle the billionaire who wants to invest in my sister wife's closet, especially because my sister wife's closet is really all Robin. And it was
Right.
tanking and they were losing money. And it just doesn't make sense that he would just say to Mary, yeah, look into it, and then really never follow up. I mean, she probably just said, yeah, I don't know if he's still going to do it. And he just let it go. It just doesn't make sense. A lot of that story doesn't make sense, but that their stories that they're telling, Robin and Cody and Meri, don't jive. There's something,
Right.
something is off in there. Now that I know that Cody was a part of it from the very beginning too, I'm suspect that maybe he had a hand in manipulating Meri, maybe to get her to
Right.
leave the family. Like, oh, here's a way that we can get her to go. And then it won't be anyone's fault, or at least it won't be our fault. And it won't be on me,
Won't
because
be my
Cody
fault.
always
That's
said,
what Cody said.
yeah, I can't kick them out. I'm stuck. I'm the men are the people who suffer in these relationships. The women can leave whenever they want, but Meri didn't believe she could leave whenever she wanted. So there's this whole back and forth. But Cody was, it could have been his way of saying, now she has an out. Here, let's
Right.
lay the
Right.
groundwork for her so that she just goes. I don't know, maybe.
But just trying to get her to leave. Because the whole thing is that it doesn't make sense. Because like you said, from the beginning, one, even if the person came in and said, "Hey, I want to invest millions in that business that she had by herself, Lizzie's in. I want to give you $20 million for Lizzie's in." Cody would have put his whole foot in Meri's business. That's just Meri's business. And if this was Robin's business, if you think about it from the lens of Cody is sitting there saying, okay, I don't really care about Meri. She can go find another. As far as I'm concerned, I don't really want to have anything to do with her. And this is Robin's business. That's his wife.
Mm-hmm.
I don't give a damn what they say about the spiritual marriage. They understand legal marriage.
Yeah.
They understand legal marriage. And he would understand that if Robin's business got $2 million or $10 million of investment, that would be his money.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way in the world that Cody is going to allow Meri to sit there and negotiate this, especially when it's the opportunity for Mr. Gift and Gab to say, hey, I'm going to connect with this guy. We'll just be two dudes on the phone having this conversation, and we can, they'll invest in me, and then I'll introduce them to Robin, and we can finesse this into something else. There's no way that whole storyline doesn't make sense. Once you start putting in the pieces of Robin knowing the person who supposedly knew the catfish, and Robin supposedly getting information from the person who was catfishing because she was a friend of hers, and coming back and telling Robin and Cody stories about what the catfish is telling her that Meri is telling the cat. Look, there's too much going on. There's too much going on. Again, convenience. And I'm not a polygamist, but I've been in the world, and I've been around. It was Al Pacino from Son of Woman. I've been around, I've seen some things, and I know that doesn't sound right. I'm like, this is setup written all over. You know what I mean?
Near the end here, on 109, when they're talking about the therapy that Meri went to, I think it's 109. I wrote 109. Went to therapy, needed to learn to. Well, let me just write my notes because I think it kind of covers a couple different pages. So, okay, first of all, it starts off with some more digs. They just made me laugh. All right, so Meri shares that her relationship with Janelle and Christine were longtime relationships and very comfortable. All right. She said that she wasn't completely happy with either one of them, although Janelle and her learned to function well together. She said that we do not have an extremely close relationship, but it's good. And then Christine, she said she knows how to goof off and have fun together with her. And their relationship is good on a surface level, but has absolutely no depth to it, which is another dig on Christine. All right, so we have two digs going there. But then she goes on and she's talking about getting into there. When she first met Robin, there was a special closeness. And she needed to learn, Meri herself needed to learn how to be available and safe. Oh, the safe word in the Brown family. And safe for her to want to let me in. She said, if I hadn't been able to examine myself and be willing to begin my journey, begin 20 years into her marriage, begin my journey of improving myself, I wouldn't have found the sweet, close sister-wife bond that I have always hoped for. that she ended up getting with Robin. What I found interesting in that is that she specifically went to therapy to work on herself for her relationship with Cody, but realized she was having problems with Robin too. So she was addressing the issue with Robin in the therapy. And she would even bring Robin into the therapy. And she writes how she worked through all these things and learned these things about herself to grow her relationship with Robin. There's no mention of, I then took those skills and tools that I acquired and applied them to my other two sister wives who I have been living with for all of these years. There's nothing of that. And sure enough, she never did get close to the other two. So I just found that really interesting. I'm like, did you really learn? Because, I mean, why is it so Robin specific? Or I don't know, maybe because Cody was there too. He kind of guided it. He wasn't there for all of them, but maybe he guided it. Like, we really need to work on how these two work out. And the therapist didn't even realize that she wasn't close with the other two wives. But that kind of stood out to me when I was reading it as like something she worked really hard to get it together for Robin. But didn't care so much about the other two wives. And maybe she just thought they're friends of each other's. So I'm not even going to try anymore because we've gotten to a comfortable level where we can all just function amongst ourselves. So I'll put all my eggs in the Robin basket.
Right.
That came back to bite her. But
yeah, right. I think, well, because I think that what happened, and this is just my supposition, I think what happened was there's the biggest problem that I see in the family is that everybody is making moves to their own advantage. And when it came to Christine, the relationship between Meri, Christine, and Janelle, there's no advantage in having their friendship. Whereas with Robin, because Robin is the preferred wife, there is an advantage, a distinct advantage for Meri to gain and obtain a close friendship with Robin. The ironic part, and this is one of the things that always kind of ripped me up a little bit about their relationship. The ironic part is, it always seemed to me that Meri was looking for Robin to put her together with Cody. But ironically, the only reason why, well, according to Meri, but I don't think this is true, but in Meri's perspective, the reason why Robin and Cody are together is because she put the two of them together. So she was looking for Robin to pay it back, which she had did for Robin so many years ago. So I need to build this relationship with her and gain her favor, so she will do this favor for me and put me with Cody, and maybe we can rekindle or restart our relationship with the encouragement of Robin. But I just have the suspicion that Robin was never in the corner where she was trying to improve Meri's relationship with Cody. I just don't think that was part of the mix. Or I think she gave like some wordplay to, like, you need to have her around. You need to go sit with her. You need to try to keep her in the family because that's what we do as polygamists. But very similar or mirrored to the way Meri had addressed her sister wives. I'm okay with you going over there sitting at her house, but I don't want you to treat her like a wife. And that's kind of where Meri talked about the jealousy, even with Christine and Janelle, and eventually with Robin, is that Cody was treating them like a wife with all the, accoutrements that went along with it, including like the intimacy time, the conversations, and treating her like a certain way. She was okay with them hanging out. She's not okay with them hanging out. And I think Robin very well may have been in that same situation because I know we play her out like the ice queen and ice princess, but I think Robin has feelings too. And I think that Robin can be jealous and can experience jealousy of these other women just as much as these women experience jealousy over Robin. And so if, it seemed like Meri was going to get too close, I could see Robin just throwing a little, a wrench in the whole gear to stop it from moving forward. And then going back, but I don't understand why this relationship didn't work out. Oops, did I say that? She's cheating on you. Oh well,
Yeah.
But there's one point where she said, just to close it out, where unless did you have anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, that was my last That was the last thing I had besides saying, and I think we touched this at the beginning. I wrote the very last line I wrote on my notes was, I think Meri, despite her own words in the book, is a monogamist at heart.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And this is what I was saying like earlier. You have to have like a knowledge of yourself. You have to be aware of yourself. Be honest with yourself. I don't care what everybody else is. All the cool kids are polygamists. Well, it's just not for you.
Yeah.
It's not for you. But the last thing I wanted to point out was actually on page 110. It says one of the benefits of plural marriage is that you are forced to confront your own weakness of character and work on being the best wife, sister, and mother you can be. I'm confident that I would not be the person I am today if I had chosen a monogamous marriage. So, like off rip, you probably wouldn't be the person you are today because you wouldn't be divorced if you guys would have had a monogamous marriage. Sorry, just my two. But there's also the point where I've heard them talk about, getting over jealousy and working through these ill things and all that in order to become a better person and all that. There's something to be said about losing. There's something to be said about suffering. And it can, like, that crucible of pain and discomfort can push you to greatness. However, I don't think you have to live there in order for you to achieve the things you want to achieve in your life. I don't think that if you get in a relationship, you have to be abused physically, mentally, sexually, whatever the case may be, mistreated or neglected, which is also a form of abuse, in order for you to be a better person. Like, I don't think that that's required that's not a part of the assignment. So I understand where they're trying to come through. Like, if you can work through jealousy, then you can come out to be a better person on the side. I see where you're kind of trying to go with that, but I don't think that you have to put yourself in a situation where you are being jealous, because the reason you feel jealous is because you recognize you're not being treated fairly. Yeah. And there's a difference. It's not just you being jealous because, I have ice cream and they have ice cream too. You're jealous because they're ice cream sitting in a warm air conditioned house, a cool air conditioned house, and I'm staying outside in the blazing heat, barefoot on the sidewalk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just I didn't like that. I didn't care for that part of it.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. It's that whole what is it? Sacred loneliness.
Yeah. The sacred loneliness.
Yep.
Where you can sit and reflect about being by yourself while your man is out there blowing somebody back out.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you're better for it. Your character and your closeness to God is being developed while you're out there in the sun and everyone else is inside eating ice cream in the air conditioning. Yep.
We're putting on sweaters. It's so cold enough. Ooh, it's chilly. But even that, like the idea of like that sacred loneliness, you have to suffer so much in order for you to achieve a certain level of this, that, and I don't buy into a lot of that foolishness. Like, you shouldn't have to. There's a point too where, even going back to something we had talked about earlier, where just as a person who is a partner in a relationship, my question would be, I get Meri may feel, or Christina, Janelle with OG3, they may feel that they have to suffer in order for them to develop whatever they need to develop. But you, as their husband, their partner, their loved one, why are you contributing to their suffering? What relationship do you know that you have a relationship with somebody, whether it's you with your kids or you with your husband or your wife or whatever, where you could openly sit there and watch them suffer, knowing full well that it's in your power to take away their pain, but you choose not to do it. Yeah. And to me, that's the challenge of character. Because what type of person would sit there knowing full well I can lift this weight off your shoulders, but I'm not going to, because you need to learn. You need to be a better person. You're going to suffer through this, and it's going to make you awesome. Like that's to me, that would be a failure on my part.
Lisa Owen calls it noble neglect.
Yeah,
I like that too.
Noble neglect. I will neglect you and make you a better person.
You will be more
You're
noble
welcome.
for this. You'll appreciate me and thank me.
Yeah, right. And you sit in your house and cry alone. You're welcome.
Right.
Like, what?
Exactly. You're
This is
welcome.
hard. You're a terrible person. Like, yeah, I just don't like. I don't get it. Like, because again, this is suffering that you could prevent. This is something you could stop. You have complete control over it. It's not something that's happening to them. It's something that you're doing to them, but you choose to let it go. So, I don't know.
You know, on that whole monogamy idea too, at the very end, she says she wonders about her family members who are monogamous. Quote, how can you have your husband around all the time? When do you have time for yourself? I can't imagine their lifestyle, and they can't imagine mine. I just thought that was stretching. My husband's not around all the time. We're not connected at the hip. And I'm like, this goes back to, well, because you have a life outside of him. You have friends that you go for wine with at night or coffee during the day, or you have activities that you do with other people. You have kids and playgroup moms and playgroups for your kids. You have children that you do things with. I mean, there's just so much outside of my life that my husband's not attached to my hip. And even when we are together, like we're in different rooms doing different things. He's watching television. I'm reading a book. I'm editing videos usually. And, we're kind of like, we are not always together. That's not what it's interesting that her perception is. Oh, how could you be stuck with this person all the time? Like, well, yeah, if you were like chained to each other, it'd be rough. But being in a monogamous relationship doesn't mean that they're in your face all the time. Well, then again, it goes back to communication too. And she still was working through communication at the time she was writing this book, and realizing you can just talk to him and say, dude, I need time. Like, I need my alone time. I need a weekend away. I'm going with my girlfriends and we're going to go stay somewhere else at a hotel for a weekend. And you just work through it and talk through it with each other. So her kind of wrapping it up and saying, I just can't understand how you could do that, made me feel kind of like, do you really believe that? Or are you just saying that to justify, and because I can't understand them, I get that they can't understand me. I'm like, well, it was a nice way to wrap it up, but I'm not buying it. Not buying what you're selling there, Mary.
I think there's also the counterpoint, because when Christine or when Janelle first came into the house, one of the things that Meri lamented about was the fact that she was losing her one-on-one time with Cody. She was losing that companionship with him. And the whole idea of like monogamous relationships, any relationship really, I would hold this out for polygamous relationships as well, is that you have to enjoy the company of the people that you choose to spend your time with. Yeah. And so I don't see hanging out at the house as a burden. Like, it's not a burden for me to hang out and enjoy time with my lady. Like, it's not something that, I gotta go do this, got time to make the donuts. Like, it's not something that I feel bad about, or I don't look forward to. We can sit down, we could play it, whether it's a card game, we play cards a lot, or we watch TV together, or whatever the case may be, or we have a conversation, whatever. That you have those bonds and you have those relationships. And like any other relationship, you'll go apart, you guys will do your thing, and then at some point you'll come back together and you'll discuss what you did when you were apart. It's any relationship is like that. And for them to think that it's like you bound with somebody locked in your house and you can't, you can't make decisions or moves without that person being involved with it. It's just not how monogamous relationships work.
Right.
And if anything, it just demonstrates to me that you guys don't have a full understanding of how relationships work. And one of the cool things about being in a monogamous relationship versus how they executed their polygamous relationships, if I have an issue or a problem in my relationship, I can work on my issues and problems as much as or as long as I need to in order for that issue or problem to be resolved. I'm not constrained or confined to I got one night to figure everything out before they go off and go spend the night with somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So I can talk like we can, we have a bad blowout argument. We can spend the week
Yeah.
going back and forth.
Mhm.
Whereas with this type of relationship, you got tonight. Because
Yeah.
when I come over, I can see that. I mean, just in fairness, like if you Cody, you get in an argument, fuck you, this is ridiculous, you can't cook, whatever the case may be, I'm here making food all the time, dishes everywhere, whatever argument you have. You're not paying the bills, Cody. I know I don't make enough. And you go to one of the other wives, you go see your 3 wives, that's the 4-day rotation. So when you come back, you don't want to pick up where you left off. So of course he's going to be like, you're not over that yet? I'm
Yeah.
way over that because I spent 4 days and doing other stuff. I haven't
Right.
been thinking about it. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, your wife is sitting there for 3 or 4 days stewing.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where I don't see how dudes do it. Because you walking into an argument, you walking into a hellstorm because she had 3 days to think about how many times you messed up, how you messed up, and why this is your fault.
Oh yeah, she's got the bullet points. It's all highlighted, and she has the outline in her head memorized.
Right? She might even have like a little presentation with the laser pointer going, and this is where you messed up. Like, you know what I mean? And you're not prepared.
That's
You are
right.
not prepared.
Yep.
So yeah, I was talking last super chat. Poor Meri was never meant for polygamy. No, she wasn't. I agree with you.
No,
I
she
agree with
wasn't.
that son.
Yeah.
She was not built for it. And that's not a slight. And if Meri ever sees this, please don't take that as a slight that we're somehow criticizing you as a person because you can't do polygamy. I don't think that most people are equipped to do polygamy. Like, and that's not a feeling. I don't know whether you have to have an extra part or you have to be missing some parts in order to successfully traverse this. I just know that it's difficult for most people to do.
Yeah.
Like it's just hard. It's a hard life.
Yeah.
This is a multitasking relationship issue with someone who is called ADHD is crazy. He makes me tired watching him talk in the early seasons.
Yes.
Yeah.
Christian, that's a really good point. And that could also be where Meri's coming from when she was writing the book. She's picturing Cody.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I'm picturing Cody too, there's no way I could be in a monogamous relationship with him.
Right.
So after all those years, by the time she's writing the book, she's thinking, oh my goodness. Now, like at the beginning, it was fine because it was fun and we were young and we were in love and, we were horny and it was a good time. And so I could look by everything. But now 20 years in, older, wiser, your relationship has matured. Cody really hasn't changed much. By the time the season began, he was still all over the place, hopping around like a jackrabbit wherever he was going. He was still bouncing off the walls. So, and she's 20 years more calm than she was before. So I couldn't imagine. That could be her perspective there too, is you got to look at the person. Like you said, if you choose wisely, it's okay. Being a monogamist is great because you enjoy spending time with the person that you're with. But if you don't choose wisely, it can be difficult. Yes.
You can get rough. And I think that's a good point too. Kind of one of the things you touched on is that when you're younger and you have certain appetites, like the reality of it is that a lot of things can be brushed under the rug or swept under the rug because you're fixated on one thing. So you're excited about the physical aspects of your relationship. So you overlook a lot of the person's shortcomings because you're like, okay, well, I mean, we have some problems with that. That's okay because we'll just go into the room and we'll figure it out. Yep. And when you move past that point, then you guys actually have to have a conversation. That's when stuff starts to get real. I think that's when it starts to get real. And you realize that, oh, maybe we do need some help. We need to really start focusing and drilling down on what our issues and problems are. And it doesn't help when you have somebody who is all over the place. Right. And if he can't focus on, and if he doesn't, I don't want to say he doesn't care enough because I think that can come off a little cold. But if he doesn't have the passion or desire enough to try to figure out how to make the relationships work, then the relationships are doomed. Like I think that was a big problem too. Like if he doesn't if he's not concerned, like if Christine has a problem or Mary or Janelle has a problem, and he doesn't want to sit in there and get in there and really work out these problems, and he'd rather just go off and sit in Robin's house in the honeymoon state, then your relationship was doomed from the beginning. It was never going to work. It was never going to work. I said my cloak of charity with sacred loneliness when I take half a cheesecake to my mom's house, then eat the other half by myself. That's the only acceptable definition of those phrases.
I agree with you, Flying Chin Club.
Flying to the drop of wisdom. And that's the cloak of charity and forgiveness. Because you have to forgive yourself after you do something like that. Like, I forgive you.
That's right. Yep.
Oh. I won't do that again until next week. What rules? Oh, okay. This just the last round out. I want to be at some point with James and Jenny's opinion on what rules or practice could have made Cody's polygamy work. Like, what have we learned from all that could have worked? What could have made it work? You want to take a crack at that?
Monogamy. Now, if they wanted to be, it all comes down, I think, to communication for them. If they would have been in therapy right from the get-go, the two of them, if they would have learned to communicate properly with each other, it said in the book that Cody was one who just wanted to disregard things and put it on a shelf and walk away and come back and not address things. Mary's the one that wanted to really, really talk through things. And she had this aggressive personality that she wasn't really aware of, how she was being perceived. If that could have been nipped in the bud right from the get-go, and they would have been in therapy and she would have been identifying that and trying to work on not being so harsh and working on her delivery and learning what she should share, what she shouldn't share, and how to share it in a polite and kind way that people can receive it. And it doesn't feel like you're being, that you don't have to be on the defensive with her. And if Cody would have learned that he needs to talk through these things, and he did get there in their therapy 20 years in when they started therapy, they were working through this stuff. Had that happened right at the beginning, I think she would have worked through a lot of her stuff and Cody would have worked through a lot of his stuff so that by the time Janelle came in, it would have been a smoother transition. It all comes down to communication with this family. They are the worst communicators. They're the first ones to admit they're the worst communicators, and yet they still don't fix it. All the way up to season 18, they're like, our family just doesn't communicate. Like, it's something like we weren't blessed with the communication gene. There's nothing we can do about it. Like, there's no effort or work being put in.
Right. Well, I think that I agree with you. I think that one of the craziest things, this is something I forgot to mention, and I'll round it out, guys. I apologize for going on. But one of the things I forgot to mention was it was noted in the book, or at least from my understanding, that they started seeing the therapist when Robin came into the family. And they started seeing the therapist because Robin didn't want to come into the family and he was having problems with Meri. Mm-hmm. So I guess maybe she wanted to keep the cast together before the show started. But either way, they went 15 years, going on 20 years, 15 to 20 years, not seeking therapy, not trying to improve their situation. And the only reason they did that was because Cody wanted to add another wife. That in itself, how you start is how you finish. If you start on a poor process, or you start on a poor foundation of why you're doing something, a poor reasoning as to why you're doing something, then that can infect the entire work through of you actually accomplishing the things you're trying to accomplish. And so, like you said, with the communication is key. But for me, one of the things that I've always said about these types of relationships, any relationship really, is that first and foremost, you have to take time to be honest with yourself. Get to know yourself, be honest with yourself. Once you're honest with yourself, brutally honest with yourself, know your strengths and your shortcomings, all of it, and you're brutally honest about that. Once you're honest about that with yourself, that gives you the freedom and the ability to be honest with other people in their situation. So you can see, if you can see your shortcomings and you can see your strengths, you can see their shortcomings and their strengths. then you start to judge your relationships not for what you want them to be, but for what they are. You recognize whether you can do something or you can't do something. And even if you're in a situation where you think that you can do polygamy, you recognize that this person may not be somebody I can do polygamy with. Just because they're willing to participate in it doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to be a good fit in my family structure with me and the person that I'm in a relationship with. This is again one of the things like keep talking about seeking sister wives. But what's interesting to me about that show is that you're catching these relationships in the infant stages of when they start.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the problems that you see in sister wives after like a 20-year maturation period, you see in the seedling period on that particular show. And I think that when you see a lot of that on Seeking Sister Wives, you see them come in and they're trying to hammer out and they have these expectations, but the expectations they have don't match the people that they're trying to pair themselves with. You know, you realize that they're headed for disaster. In this particular case with the Brown family, I think they were headed for disaster because they were putting pieces on the board before they understood how the game was played. They were starting to add pieces well before. If you can't do one wife, you shouldn't have two wives. You can't. If you're having problems with the two wives, you damn sure shouldn't have a third or fourth. If you're having problems dealing with one child, you don't go and have 3, 4 more kids. That'll fix it. That's a bad idea. You know. So what could have fixed their? What could Cody have done? Cody could have been a different person. He would have to be more mature. He would have to be able to recognize his issues, his shortcomings. He would have to have compassion and he would have to have consideration as well as communication in order to make any of these relationships work. So I think that would have been a good, strong point. As well as there has to be truth and honesty in the stuff that they try to do.
Yeah.
And that's just my shotgun approach for the off the cuff. So, did you have anything else you wanted to say about the this particular chapter?
No, it was a good chapter.
Yes.
A lot of shockers. I learned a lot of information from it. Yeah, no, I don't have anything else. Not about the chapter. Nope.
Okay. Yeah, I'm good too. Did you have anything coming up this week that folks should be looking forward to? Or
Before I forget, let me shout out Lynn Vaughn. I saw another moderator show up a little bit later, so I didn't get a chance to shout her out at the beginning. So welcome, Lynn. I have 2 Lyns and a Lori. Thursday will be our Cloaca Charity Book Club reading night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as usual. You can click on the thumbnail on my page and it will notify you when it is ready or when it's going live. So I recommend that. And I apologize this week I didn't get another Sister Wives video out. We're wrapping up Vanderpump Rules on my sub-channel, Reality TV Breakdown. And we're doing Seeking Sister Wives over there as well. So it was just a busy week in my personal life this week. So between those 2 shows and then the 2 lives, I didn't have a chance to do it. But I have some good ideas. It's just a matter of putting all the information together. So keep an eye out. Sometime this week, there should be another video about Sister Wives, something in the Sister Wives realm. How about you, James?
Got some stuff cooking. Awesome. Oh, before I get into it, Susie Q in the $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Susie Q.
Thank you, Susie Q.
Hey there, love your lives. On the West Coast, so you entertain me as I make Sunday dinner. I don't know how anyone does polygamy. Yeah, you and me both, Susie.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna lie. All this would be white. I'd be done dying. White or pulled out. Thank you so much for the super chat. As for me, this week, guys, I am going live. I'm going live on I have tomorrow with the Sister Lives at 7 o'clock with Amanda and Sarah. Then on Tuesday at what I decided on 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock. I will be 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will be doing the live My Take show where I am going to start talking about the big issue is going to be trad wives. Of course, I'm going to cover some reality show stuff. and that'll probably be Tuesday and Thursday, and then I'll be putting out some videos during the course of the week. So look for those. Like Jenny, I had a whole bunch of stuff going on last week. I just couldn't get to the stuff I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Life happens, and it
Yeah.
just doesn't make way for YouTube. I know no excuses, but we're gonna get it done.
No.
And
We're here. We're here.
Right. We're here on Sundays though, talking this craziness. But I want to thank everybody for showing up. Oh yeah. Story time. Yesterday, or it was yesterday. Day before yesterday, I was at the gym with my son. Me and my son go to the gym sometimes, and we go to the gym. But I ran into somebody. I will give them a shout out. I don't know if they want me to say their name or whatever. I ran into her and her husband. They stopped me in the gym. They recognized me from the channel. So thank you so much, neighbor. Thank you.
That's amazing.
I appreciate you. Yeah, she stopped me like, "Are you James?" I was like, "Yeah." But yeah, they
You're
were awesome.
celebrity, James. We all knew it anyway.
And only in my mind, but they were awesome. They were awesome.
No, all our
But yeah,
minds.
you guys catch me out. You can talk to me. I'm the same on and off camera, so it is what it is. What you see is what you
Yes.
get.
I'll agree to that. We chat before we go live, and exactly what you see here is exactly how he is when we're chatting before we get going live. Everything's exactly the same.
Correct. No mysteries. So I won't pull a J-Lo. But yeah. Oh no, you know what? Matter of fact, I did change it. So on Tuesday, I won't be talking about Sean Puffy, P. Diddy. So I have to do that first before I do the other stuff. So I'm gonna be talking about P. Diddy a little bit. So we gotta talk about it. And if you guys want to jump on, I will be uploading. So get your cameras ready. Be ready to get your your stuff ready, because I'll bring you guys up and we can have those conversations. All right. So I
Exciting.
want to thank everybody for coming out. I want to thank the mods, because you guys do an awesome job holding the chat down. Thank you guys for participating in the chat. All the mods who help out everybody. But thank you guys for keeping the chat super cool and super chill. Like I'm going through trying to click on stuff and highlight stuff, but you guys are keeping it super respectful, and I appreciate that. I'm sure Jenny appreciates it as well. No problems, no troubles, which I like. So thank you guys so much. I'm James.
I'm Jenny.
That's our take on reality, and I'm out. Thank you guys.